Chapter 1425. Dustless frowned and looked at the pale girl. He seemed to have thought of something, and a bright light flashed in his eyes. He turned around and ordered them to leave. The health room is a very serious place. Now, all of you get out. Dustless's serious face was quite deterrent, and he also released a trace of his own temperament. These girls who were heckling were like ants on a hot pan, and they fled in panic. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared without a trace. It's better to be serious. Dustless shook his head and sighed. Then, he stared at Wanli Guyoli for a long time. The corner of his mouth lifted slightly, and he said in his heart, I'm afraid that this little girl deliberately pretended to be unconscious. Her purpose is to get close to me, the new king. She is really well informed. I just became your health room, and you fainted. Cough, cough. After clearing his throat, Dustless's eyes flashed with a teasing look. He deliberately pretended to have a questioning expression and said to himself, the body's pulse and complexion seem to be fine. Although the weather is a bit hot, it doesn't seem to have the characteristics of heat stroke. His body is weak, but it shouldn't be to the extent of fainting. Dustless's eyes fell on Wanli Guyoli's body. Seeing that her eyes were still closed, he had to take an inch and ask for a mile. Could it be that there is a problem with other parts of the body, or? Aunt Flo is here. I'll check it out now. Ah! Just a second before his voice fell, Wanli Guyoli instantly sat up, and it was accompanied by a deafening, ear-piercing scream that made people tremble. Perverted teacher. Stay away from me. Realizing that Dustless had approached the bed, Wanli Guyoli panicked and quickly picked up the pillow and threw it at him. Fortunately, Dustless dodged it with a god-level dodge. I'm helping you to treat, Wanli Guyoli, Dustless said with a smile. He thought in his heart, you are still 100,000 miles away from fighting with me. Treat? Hearing this, Wanli Guyoli's face instantly turned red. She couldn't help but curse Dustless's ancestors in her heart. She had the urge to vomit blood. She immediately labeled Wu Chen as a wretched pervert. She thought to herself, I only fainted. What does this have to do with whether my period came or not? Moreover, you want to personally check how perverted he is. Student Wanli Gu, your face is abnormally red. Is your blood flowing faster? His heart was beating rapidly? This is a big problem that needs to be treated. Hurry up and take off your... I'm fine. Wanli Guyoli quickly jumped out of the bed, and his expression quickly returned to normal. In order to dispel Dustless's doubts, he ran 2 laps in an extremely vigorous manner. It seems that he has really recovered. Tisk tisk, my medical skills are really brilliant. Dustless shamelessly boasted and sold himself, but he was laughing in his heart. Brilliant. Wanli Guyoli's mouth twitched. If Dustless was really a brilliant doctor, perhaps the patients in this world would have died. Since you have recovered, hurry up and go to class. I still need to receive other students here. Pointing in the direction of the door, Dustless poured himself a cup of water and gently took a sip. In fact, Dustless was testing her in disguise. If Wanli Guyoli was really under some kind of order to contact him, she would never leave at will. Sure enough, Wanli Guyoli suddenly shrunk, and her expression was very awkward. Sure enough, she was entrusted by someone else. It is estimated that it is some special organization of the country's government. Dustless frowned. In fact, every country has a similar organization, which is responsible for investigating supernatural events. Most of the members are magicians or magicians like Wanli Guyoli. However, it is stupid to come up with such a rotten idea like pretending to be sick. Dustless looked at the girl who was tightly pinching the corner of her clothes. Her face was red and quite cute, like a ripe peach, making people want to take a bite. After shrunk for a long time, Wanli Guyoli finally gritted her teeth and said, that teacher still doesn't have a girlfriend? I hope to be able to associate with teacher. When she said the word girlfriend, Wanli Guyoli almost bit out each word. For the sake of that broken organization behind you, you really sacrificed a lot. Dustless sighed in his heart. At the same time, he couldn't help but feel a burst of helplessness. It was just the first time they met, and Wanli Guyoli didn't even know his name. This speed of association was more exaggerated than love at first sight. Student Wanli Guyoli is still underage. This kind of thing can be discussed later. Dustless tactfully refused. If he directly refused her without thinking, it would inevitably hurt the pure girl's heart. After all, she was innocent. Although Dustless's idea was good, he still underestimated the girl in front of him. My figure is very plump, and age is not a problem. Wanli Gu Yoli plucked up her courage, resisted her shyness, patted her cleavage and said loudly. Dustless staggered and almost fell when he heard the words. He said painfully, Student Wanli Gu Yoli, to tell you the truth, I already have a girlfriend. She is a new student named Erica. Dustless, who was helpless, could only use Erica to temporarily avoid the sharp edge. This problem girl was really confusing. But, Dustless suddenly changed the thread of discussion and said softly, If you don't mind, I can go to your house to do it. Really? Wanli Gu Yoli's desperate eyes surged with hot light. She looked at Dustless with a face full of hope, for fear that he would go back on his words. Her delicate little face was full of tension. See you after school. Dustless nodded seriously and smiled. Chapter 14:26. Dustless agreed to Wanli Gu Yoli's request after careful consideration. If he rejected her first, it would mean that she would come to him again. In that case, he might as well settle it once and for all. See you after school. Wanli Gu Yoli bowed with a smile and immediately left with light steps. Just as she was about to step out of the infirmary, her body stopped as if she had been electrocuted. May I know your name? Wanli Gu Yoli was very embarrassed. Thinking of her presumptuous behavior just now, her face reddened uncontrollably again. Who would be willing to have a girlfriend with a person they didn't even know? Dustless. Dustless responded softly. He put his hands in his pockets and looked at the golden scenery outside the window with boredom. Goodbye, Mr. Dustless. Wanli Gu Yoli's face bloomed with a charming smile before she hurriedly left. What a shy girl. Are you planning to eavesdrop on others' conversation? And you're terrible at hiding, Erica. Hearing the rapid breathing outside the infirmary, Dustless sneered in a strange tone. I thought someone brought their cow to see a doctor. So it's Elika-chan. Tap tap tap. Erica walked in righteously. Although she was eavesdropping on the conversation between Dustless and Wanli Gu Yoli, she said righteously, protecting the king's safety is the rule of a knight. This is not eavesdropping, but a duty. Please pay attention to your words. You're quite good at talking. Dustless sat down on the bed, holding his head and saying, Really, ever since I became that whatever king, troublesome things have come one after another. If they're not trying to rope me in, they're trying to scheme against me. I can't be careless at all. Once a person had the power to destroy the world, he would inevitably become the target of all forces and organizations. This was an unchanging law since ancient times. Are you really going to see her? Erica asked with a frown. She was very unwilling. Dustless was only so big. If everyone wanted to take a bite out of him, how could she take a bite out of him? Of course. When in Rome, do as the Romans do. After all, this is their territory. Dustless said casually. Anyway, he had nothing to do. You're afraid that you'll be punished for troubling that little girl, aren't you? Erica snorted, as if she knew what he was thinking. After school, Dustless attracted a lot of attention as soon as he arrived at the school gate. What does that have to do with you? Dustless looked at Erica and asked. At this moment, his right arm was tightly gripped by her, sandwiched between her cleavage. It's a knight's responsibility to protect the king. Erica's expression was solemn, her tone sounding like that of a professional bodyguard. What about you? She turned her head and glanced at Shizuka Kusanagi, who was holding Dustless's left arm and glaring at Erica. You're Oni-san's friend. I can't bear to see you being led astray by others. Shizuka Kusanagi said with an expression of, I'm thinking for you. No wonder I attracted so much firepower. Wu-chen smiled bitterly. He realized that he was being glared at by countless boys. Their ferocious looks looked like they wanted to swallow him alive. Everyone loved beauty. Wu-chen took care of so many girls. How could the others live? Dustless-sensei, you. A clear voice came from the side. Dustless turned his head and saw Wanli Gu Yoli, who had been waiting for him for a long time. You two go back first. Dustless stared at Shizuka Kusanagi and Erica, and said in a serious tone, "I won't get lost and I don't need a bodyguard." Shizuka Kusanagi and Erika looked at each other, and hearing Dustless's stern tone, they finally nodded. "Remember to come back early tonight. I have something to tell you," Erika said with a rare serious expression. "Something big?" Hearing this, Dustless froze for a moment, and could not help but think of the Gorgon stone. "Don't worry, you should know my strength. If you can't even protect yourself, you're just going to die." Erika and Kusanagi seemed to be very dissatisfied. Wanli-gu Yoli was worried. She did not want to break up Dustless's relationship because of her, so she suggested, "How about, together?" "Don't worry about them." Patting Wanli-gu Yoli's shoulder gently, Dustless comforted her. "They are not the kind of people who are unreasonable. That would be best." Wanli-gu Yoli echoed, and at the same time, pulled Dustless to lead the way. Despite some awkward misunderstandings, the two talked and laughed along the way and got along quite well. This scene is really unexpected. In the black car, the young man with glasses looked at Dustless and Wanli-gu Yoli's departing back with a wise look in his eyes. This king seems to be easier to deal with than his king, and he has a good temper. He seems to be easier to get along with than the other kings. The figure in the black car is called Gorgon Winterhorse, and he is the official representative of the redaction committee. In fact, he also asked Wanli-gu Yoli to win over Dustless. He thought that this simple girl would not be able to complete the task, but who would have thought that she would complete the task well and not find out the situation? Miss Wanli-gu doesn't seem to hate him very much. Driving quietly close to Dustless and Wanli-gu Yoli, Gorgon Winterhorse found that Wanli-gu Yoli would sometimes show a sincere smile, and the quick-witted Gorgon Winterhorse immediately came up with a good plan. If Miss Wanli-gu can be his girlfriend, or even if she can marry him. Thinking of this, Gorgon Winterhorse was very excited. If they had a king to protect them, their future would definitely be promising. Chapter 14:27. Thinking of this, Kaneji Winterhorse was particularly excited. It was as if he had already seen Dustless's appearance in the future. Whiz whiz whiz. With a super drift, Kaneji Winterhorse disappeared from sight. Although Kaneji Winterhorse had some sympathy for Wanli-gu Yoli, at least he didn't catch the disgust from her expression. Even if she didn't like Dustless, she wouldn't hate him. This made Kaneji Winterhorse feel less guilty. Really, just be a good human being. You have to scream about things that have nothing to do with you. It's really boring. Wu Chen sighed softly. The sudden appearance of Winterhorse of Sweet Meal, and even the words he muttered to himself, all fell into his ears without missing a word. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, about 10 minutes had passed. Dustless and Wanli-gu Yoli also came to a special courtyard. The surroundings were full of flowers and plants. The scenery was pleasant, especially the elegant shrine had a retro taste. "Is this your home? The scenery is very good. It's really a pleasure to live here." Dustless nodded secretly and looked at the figure running quickly from the left. The only uninvited guest was probably him. "Sorry. My name is Kaneji Winterhorse. I'm the official representative of our country's compilation committee." The uncle with glasses bowed gently and was polite. "I hope that Miss Wanli-gu would invite you. If I offended you, please forgive me." Kaneji Winterhorse continued to explain, reluctantly being responsible. "I've already seen this." Dustless replied indifferently, "I just went to Chungjia to be a teacher, and you fainted. This is too much of a coincidence." Hearing this, Wanli-gu Yoli's small face was slightly red, and a strange feeling rose in her heart. Since Teacher Dustless knows this is a conspiracy, but she still rushed over without hesitation, indicating that she deliberately helped me out. Wanli-gu Yoli was very well behaved and poured 2 cups of tea. Her gentle appearance was like a pretty daughter of a humble family, giving people the impression that she was very intellectual. "If you have something to say, I just hope that you won't do those boring surveillance in the future, otherwise." Releasing a wisp of his own killing intent, the surrounding air instantly condensed, and the biting cold in the hot weather was particularly terrifying. "Of course." Winterhorse Ganji wiped his cold sweat and nodded. In his heart, he sighed that the king was indeed temperamental. One second he could be friends with you, and the next second he could put a knife to your neck. "I hope you can join. If you want me to join your organization, then save it. I'm not interested in that at all." Dustless bluntly refused after receiving the tea from Wanli Gu Yoli. Of course not. Dustless immediately changed his mind. He was not surprised by Dustless's rejection. If he was the king, he would also reject without hesitation. It was good to be free. Why would he want to be someone else's pawn? However, I still hope that when the god of disobedience appears, Your Excellency can protect our country. With a face full of sincerity, Winterhorse said, In return, my country can agree to all of your conditions. Dustless's performance was mediocre. He had already guessed that this would be the case. Okay, if you know that I'm in this country and still dare to come out, it's a blasphemy to me. Rubbing his chin, Dustless waved his hand and said. Then he stretched leisurely and remembered Erica's instructions. When he was about to retreat home, he suddenly smelled something unusual. It was a hissing sound similar to a python. Ah! I didn't finish my sentence for long, and you came to add insult to injury. You did it on purpose. How can I accept this, Miss Athena? Looking up at the sky, Dustless happened to find a cold gaze sizing him up. It was Athena, who he encountered a few days ago in Sardinia, Italy. At this moment, her expression was cold, and her cold temperament seemed to be isolated from the world. There was a faint hostility in her eyes. This guy is extraordinarily strong. He can still remain so calm in the face of a god. Winterhorse secretly clicked his tongue. When he heard that the opponent was Athena, his body seemed to be fixed in place. After all, she was a god. In front of her, humans were just ant-like grains of sand, not worth mentioning. If she wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. You have my scent on you. Staring at Dustless for a long time, Athena finally said something inexplicable. No way, is there something wrong with my ears? Hearing this, Wanli Gu Yoli and Winterhorse were stunned. Wanli Gu Yoli's face was full of awkwardness. She vaguely understood what Athena meant. She immediately cursed Dustless in her heart for being a womanizer and not even letting go of a god. Winterhorse secretly gave Dustless a thumbs up. He was shocked that he even dared to lay his hands on a god. As expected of the lawless king. Seeing this, the corner of Dustless's mouth twitched. He found that Wanli Gu Yoli and Winterhorse were looking at him differently. He snapped at Athena. Watch your words. Don't cause a misunderstanding. Dustless could not help but be angry. He cursed Athena in his heart for deliberately sowing discord. As surpassers in different fields, why should we care about the feelings of ordinary people? Let them think what they want. It has nothing to do with me. From the beginning to the end, Athena's tone was calm and collected. She did not even look at Wanli Gu Yoli and Winterhorse. In her eyes, except for Dustless, the others were just insignificant humans. Miss Athena, are you looking for me? Dustless asked. He was too lazy to talk to her about trivial matters. He said, If you still want to challenge me, I advise you to give up. The gap between us is too big. Awesome. 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 Hearing this, Winterhorse was full of admiration. He could not wait to go over and thank Dustless. Daring to say that the gap between them was too big to a god. The person who said this was either a super strong person who had the power to destroy the world or a lunatic who sneaked out of a mental hospital during the holidays. Chapter 14:28. Both Thousand Miles Gu Yoli and Winterhorse Gorgon tensed up. They thought that Athena would cause a ruckus if she went berserk, but to their surprise, she remained silent. She just floated quietly in the sky, looking down at Dustless silently, her eyes blinking as she circled Dustless, as if thinking about something. It can't be wrong, you do have my scent on you. Athena repeated again, her light tone was much heavier than before, and her tone was firm. This girl! Hearing this, Dustless frowned and looked at Athena with a slightly dissatisfied look. Judging from her performance, she did not seem to be lying. Could it be? Suddenly thinking of a possibility, Dustless guessed. Could it be the Gorgon stone? Speaking of which, I just met Erica. Athena doesn't seem like someone who would cause trouble for no reason. If Erica had the Gorgon stone, and Dustless had come into contact with her, then everything could be explained. The thing you want is useless, but, with a slightly serious tone, Dustless suggested, I know someone who might have it if you don't mind, you can come with me. You know? Athena's gem eyes rippled as she stared quietly at Dustless, hesitating for a moment, unable to make up her mind. Who knows what kind of person this guy is? To be fair, this guy is too strange. What? A god is afraid of me? Dustless sneered and said sarcastically. And you are a goddess of the Trinity, it seems that you are just so-so. Humph. You were lucky to defeat me last time. After being repeatedly provoked by Dustless, Athena's calm heart burst into flames, and she said unkindly, So what if I go with you? Lead the way. With that, Athena landed on the ground like a dragonfly skimming the water, and calmly walked to Dustless's side, her eyes clearly saying that she would follow him. How can you be so capricious? You really are a problem child. Seeing this, Dustless smiled bitterly, and gave an apologetic look to Guyoli and Gorgon Winterhorse. Who are you calling a problem child? I don't even know how old I am. Athena said coldly. Dustless's words hit her where it hurts. Only by retrieving the Gorgon stone can she regain her divine position and age. That was why she was so happy to track the Gorgon stone. Speaking of which, if I help you find the Gorgon stone, how will you thank me? Dustless asked with a smile. As a god, you shouldn't be stingy. Damn it, are you kidding me? Did he even know who he was talking to? Is this a conversation between friends from the wrong script? Wanli Guyoli and Ganzhan Dongma looked at each other and saw the helplessness and shock in each other's eyes. This was a legendary deity, not a hawker in the market. There was no such thing as bargaining. At least, you should be a bit more serious. Thank you? Athena raised her eyebrows and tilted her head as if she was thinking, and after a few seconds of silence, she awkwardly found that she had no reward. No need to thank me, you have provoked me as a god before. This time help me find the Gorgon stone, and I can let you go. Athena said seriously. This fellow's narcissism is on par with sect leader Luo Haoluo. Dustless cursed his bad luck, and when he thought about it, he suddenly realized that other than Guyoli, all the women around him, whether it was Luo Hao, Erica or now Athena, all had this narcissistic trait. But then again, is the Gorgon stone with Erica? If Athena knows that I lied to her, she will definitely be torn down by Serene Flower's family. Dustless sighed, and he could only take one step at a time. That. Guyoli quietly approached Dustless and said softly, Is this really okay? She is the god of disobedience, and can bring about a devastating disaster. Gorgon Winterhorse did not say anything, but he looked at Athena nervously. Obviously, he had the same idea, and being associated with the god of disobedience was tantamount to asking for trouble. You are right, but, at this point, Dustless looked at Gorgon Winterhorse and pointed at Athena and said, Why don't you help me deal with her? Hearing this, Gorgon Winterhorse stumbled and almost fell. He was about to open his mouth to refute, but he found a cold gaze locked on him, and then his body suddenly lost control, and he could not move, and even breathing was difficult. He looked up and saw Athena's cold eyes looking down at him. Gulp! Gorgon Winterhorse broke out in cold sweat, and he secretly sighed at his naivety and even ignorance. One of them was a peerless demon king, and the other was a high and mighty god. The agreement between the two of them was not something a human could interfere with. We will not interfere with the opinions of the two of you as outsiders. Gorgon Winterhorse wanted to die. Being remembered by two unprecedented figures, he would definitely suffer a fate worse than death. Goodbye. Cupping his hands, Dustless swaggered off with Athena following closely behind. Plop! Gorgon Winterhorse sat down on the ground, feeling the pressure. He was already sweating profusely, and in front of the king and god, he really could not summon up the will to resist. To put it bluntly, if he angered Dustless and Athena, the country of Japan would disappear from the map of the earth, and the powerful combat power of the two could easily destroy a country. Chapter 1429. Winterhorse thought of his reckless action and cursed his stupidity. That was provoking the king and god. Maybe it would only take a moment to kill them and his lowly life. Damn it, this world is so cruel and unfair. Winterhorse said emotionally. The probability of the number of kings and gods increasing was 0, and humans were just a weak group waiting to be dominated. Not everyone was like Dustless, who had the power to destroy the world and could easily kill gods. Looking at the whole world, there were only 7 godslayers. Just this crazy probability alone showed the probability of the birth of a godslayer. It's getting closer. Down the street, Athena followed Dustless. She could feel the aura of the Gorgon stone getting closer and closer. Following Dustless was definitely the right choice. Are you not afraid that I will betray you and get the Gorgon stone and kill you? Athena asked curiously as she looked at the calm Dustless. I believe that I will keep my promise. Dustless shrugged with an indifferent expression and then added, Of course, I have enough confidence in my own strength. Hearing this, Athena's eyes widened as she thought to herself, this guy's eloquence has not deteriorated at all. In fact, Dustless was just looking down on her. Basically, he was quietly telling Athena that even if she regained her strength, she would not be on par with him, and he was not afraid of her sudden attack. What a confident guy. Athena frowned. Although she did not want to admit it, it was undeniable that Dustless did have that kind of strength. We're here. Walking in front of an apartment, Dustless gestured for her to enter. It is indeed here. When she heard that Shizuka Kusanagi was in front of her house, Athena's heart throbbed even more, and her heart beat faster, and she even saw the Gorgon stone in a daze. Thank you. Athena's thin lips parted slightly, revealing a rare touch of true emotion, but it sounded bitter, and a blush flashed across her face. This little girl also has a cute side. Seeing this, Dustless smiled and invited, Come in and have a seat. I don't think Jinghua will dislike you. That won't be necessary. Just go in and bring out the Gorgon stone. I'll wait outside. Athena shook her head. She was used to being alone and was not good at socializing. Don't tell me you won't run while I run? Dustless teased. I'm sure you've seen my speed. Even as a god, you won't be able to catch up to me. Indeed. Athena nodded. You can run, but I'll tear her house down. Athena said in a soft voice. This barbaric goddess is really unreasonable. Dustless smiled bitterly and stepped into the room. A warm breeze blew against his face, making him feel very comfortable. You're finally back. Erika on the sofa breathed a sigh of relief. Kusanagi Shizuka was already asleep. She had been waiting for Dustless for a long time. Where's the Gorgon stone? Dustless asked faintly as he poured himself a cup of hot tea. You know about it? Hearing this, Erika was stunned for a moment before she looked at the cold Dustless and said awkwardly, I'm sorry to hide this from you. They had no choice but to give the Gorgon stone to me. This kind of thing will attract revenge wherever it is kept. Only by giving it to you as the king can you protect him. So you're saying that I have to protect it? After taking a sip of tea, Dustless remained calm and said, Leave her to me. I will protect the Gorgon stone with my life. Protect the peace of the world. That's the king in my heart. Hearing this, Erika revealed a cheerful smile. She immediately jumped in front of Dustless and gently pecked him on the face. Smells so good. Dustless nodded slightly, and then took the initiative to seal Erika's thin lips, and quietly took the Gorgon stone in his hand. Ahem, I suddenly remembered that I left something at school. I'll be back soon. With that, Dustless turned into a hurricane and disappeared, leaving a stunned Erika behind. The Gorgon stone. Here you go. Looking at Athena who had been waiting outside the door for a long time, Dustless handed the Gorgon stone to Athena and threw it to her without even blinking. Gulp. Athena took the Gorgon stone in shock. Her arms were trembling as she looked at Dustless in disbelief. The reason why she did not want to step into the room was that she felt that there was a trap, but now it seemed that she was overthinking it. Thank you. I will remember this favor. Athena thanked him seriously, and at the same time used the same tactic as Erika, leaving a kiss mark on Dustless's face while he was distracted. Beauty and beauty. Dustless was very pleased with himself, and just as he was about to attack Athena, a hoarse voice suddenly rang out, and Dustless stopped as if he had been electrocuted. I say, you too. A shrill voice suddenly rang out, and Dustless and Athena looked at each other and followed the source of the voice. It was Erika, whose veins were bulging. Damn it, caught in the act. Seeing this, Dustless knew that things were not going well, and he broke out in cold sweat. Especially when he had just obtained the Gorgon stone, Dustless had colluded with the enemy and provided it to Athena, and there would be a bloodbath. You! Glaring at Dustless, Erika was so angry that she almost vomited blood. She had just given the Gorgon stone to Dustless for safekeeping, and the next second, he gave it to Athena. Chapter 1430. Erica glared at Dustless, not bothering to hide her anger. She did not expect this guy to be so cunning. She had just given the Gorgon stone to him for safekeeping, and Dustless had given it to the enemy in such a short period of time, using the Gorgon stone to win the enemies. Erica's face was red with embarrassment. She had seen the scene between Dustless and Athena clearly, and she wished she could find a crack in the ground and crawl into it. How could she go out and meet people in the future? That is a reward from a beauty to a servant, Athena said matter-of-factly as she stared at Dustless, occasionally showing a satisfied smile, as if she was extremely satisfied with Dustless as a servant. Wait. Dustless could no longer remain calm and asked, "Servant? When did I become your servant?" Even rudely. We are still enemies. I am very satisfied with you, and it is your fortune to be my servant, Athena repeated, her firm tone filled with possessiveness. What kind of trouble is this? After a few bitter laughs, Dustless said with a straight face, Miss Athena, I am very pleased that you think highly of me, but I am not interested in being your servant. Please go back. You fool. Erica moved closer to Dustless and scolded. Now you know it's troublesome? Were you blinded by lust? This guy might destroy the world, and once Athena gets the Gorgon stone, she may recover all her strength. Don't worry. Patting Erica on the shoulder, Dustless explained, the so-called Gorgon stone was originally Athena's, and I personally don't think it's too much to return it to its rightful owner. You? Hearing this, Erica's bitter smile deepened, and she felt like crying. Although Dustless's words made sense, it still depended on who the other party was. Since you don't agree, I can only force you to agree, Athena said seriously, suddenly feeling that it was not bad to turn Dustless into a servant, and Athena felt very satisfied at the thought of the dead man being turned into a servant. Boom boom boom. Athena's body erupted with an unimaginable amount of mana. Like a volcano erupting, purplish-black mana overflowed. Rings of light gradually spread out and quickly engulfed the entire sky. At the same time, a crackling sound came from Athena's body. Looking at the source, Athena's body expanded rapidly as if she had been injected with hormones. On the surface, he looked like a 12 or 13-year-old child. But now, he had transformed into a high and mighty god that could only be watched from afar and not played with. Athena's figure grew bigger, and her voluptuous figure gradually became more prominent. She wore ancient clothing, and her silver hair flowed down to her waist. Her purple-black eyes were as beautiful as gems, and they even glowed as bright as moonlight. This guy can't be serious, right? Dustless secretly clicked his tongue. If he had been killed directly, he could still understand. But now, this unexpected script was completely different from what Dustless had imagined. Come here, my loyal servant. Athena smiled and hooked her finger, and her charm increased greatly. She was like a peerless beauty, and her whole body was filled with fatal temptation. In a trance, Athena's mentality changed. If she wanted to defeat the enemy, she did not have to rely on strength. It might be more interesting to defeat him in another way. Sorry, I'm not that interested. Dustless repeated again, and at the same time, his back was already overflowing with a large amount of light. He knew that right now, only strength could tame Athena. Miss Athena doesn't know how to repay kindness at all. Dustless sighed softly. She had been scolded and given the Gorgon stone to Athena. This guy kissed her, and now he wants to turn against her. How shameless! At the same time, Dustless realized that he had suffered a great loss. Just as well, I can also get some interest back, Dustless said with relief. He could take advantage of this opportunity to get back the interest. Otherwise, he would have suffered a great loss. Erica, just protect Static Flower and don't get hurt. This guy is my cup of tea. Dustless motioned Erica to hurry back to the room. The fight later might affect the two of them. Kai Bao of the King. Dustless used the exclusive skill of a tycoon as soon as he entered the arena. In an instant, it was as if he had arrived at a magnificent palace. The surroundings were golden and beautiful. Naive. You want to stop me with these pieces of scrap metal? After recovering her full strength, Athena was full of confidence. Her cold eyes were like the temperature of water as they quietly swept across the sky. Ka ka ka. All the weapons that she had her eyes on disappeared, turning into stones that fell around Dustless. All the weapons that Athena saw collapsed. I told you a long time ago that I am completely different from before. Do you regret it now? But I'm sorry, I won't hand over the Gorgon stone to you. It's mine to begin with. The mighty Athena said proudly. She was a completely different person from before. Not to mention capturing Dustless as a servant, she could even take him in and keep him. You have become stronger. You can't be underestimated. Dustless nodded and said solemnly. His words sounded like he was quite afraid of this girl, but his graceful actions and calm expressions silently mocked the girl for overestimating herself. But, Miss Athena, you seem to have been careless. After a while, Dustless suddenly chuckled. One sentence made Athena's invincible attack pause. What is this? When did this happen? Athena was shocked when she realized that she was surrounded. Chapter 1431. Dustless was secretly amused. Athena didn't seem to have figured it out. She thought that she could match him just because she had regained her former strength. That was a big mistake. Let me go. Athena, who felt the comfort of the shackles, whispered. At the same time, she struggled with all her might, trying to break through the shackles with brute force. However, while dreams were beautiful, reality was abnormally cruel. Athena used all her strength, but still could not escape the powerful shackles of the shackles. What is this thing? She was so tired that she gasped for breath. It was just a chain, yet she couldn't get rid of it even though she was a god. Athena felt like she was dreaming. She felt like she was in a dream. This is the heavenly lock. Without further ado, Dustless only said the name of the weapon. This is a weapon specially used to bind gods. The higher your divinity, the stronger the heavenly lock. Upon hearing this, Athena was speechless. Her lips moved, but in the end, she was speechless. What else could she say when he even had such an overpowered weapon? I refuse to accept this. Athena gritted her teeth. She had just recovered to her peak, and before she could enjoy the surging power, she was easily subdued by Dustless. How could she accept this? You refuse to accept this? So what? You are now my captive. Dustless pursed his lips, and had to remind her that she had failed and was captured. Furthermore, as a captive, I can do whatever I want to you. This was what it meant when he said that failure was the end of everything. What are you trying to do? Athena's neck shrank back as a bad thought flashed through her mind. Upon hearing this, Dustless smiled mysteriously, and then walked lightly to Athena, and said without batting an eyelid, Miss Athena, I have done you a great favor, and I gave you the Gorgon stone. I thought that I would let you go, but now you want to take revenge on me, and make me your servant? How can I let you go unscathed? You! Athena's heart skipped a beat, and she suddenly realized that something was wrong. What is he trying to do? Erica was also puzzled. To be honest, she did not understand some of Dustless's sudden actions. She was just a god of disobedience, and killing her would be the end of it. What was the point of letting her go? Under Erica's confused gaze, Dustless walked behind Athena. What are you trying to do? I am a god. Turning her head to look at Dustless behind her, Athena felt even more uneasy. She had the illusion that she was being stared at by a smiling tiger, and her whole body trembled abnormally. Aren't you a god? Didn't you want to catch me? I'll teach you a lesson. Clap, 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 clap. A crisp sound suddenly came. Athena and Erica were both stunned. It was extremely rhythmic, but for some reason, Erica had a feeling that a great disaster was about to befall her. This guy. He even dared to god. Estishes S2's a god's asterisk 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 s asterisk s asterisk s star. But, you know that was the way just thinking about it made Erica panic as if the world was about to be destroyed. This guy was gambling with the safety of the whole world. Nice touch. Dustless nodded slightly with a satisfied expression. He looked at Athena, and he could vaguely hear her grinding her teeth, and her breathing was dozens of times faster than usual. Hey, Miss Athena, you have to calm down now. Although I am the health doctor of Chungjia School, it will be troublesome if you faint from anger. I might have to perform CPR. Dustless teased her with a serious and teasing tone. You! Athena's face flushed red as she glared at Dustless. Her arms and legs were all bound by the heavenly chains, And even though Dustless was close at hand, she could not attack. She could only suppress her anger and glare at him. She swore to herself that she would make Dustless pay her back 1,000 times in the future. You still want to take revenge on me? This god is a little arrogant. Don't you realize the gap between us now? Dustless stared at Athena, and even though she hid her desire for revenge very cleverly, he could still see it clearly. Hee hee. Then there was a burst of strange laughter and Athena trembled. Kill me if you dare. Athena glared at Dustless fiercely, and her body was cold. Even if you kill me, no one will let you have an easy time in the future. Even now, you are still so stubborn, Miss Athena. Dustless shook his head slowly, and his eyes shot out bursts of terrifying light. Gulp. Even with Athena's calm temperament, she could not help but feel her scalp tingle. Who knew what kind of perverted things this guy could do? Ahem. Dustless coughed softly, cleared his throat and said loudly, In that case, I can only continue to teach Miss Athena a lesson. It is not good to fight and kill. Dustless shrugged and showed an I am very kind expression. Pretend, keep pretending. The fox's tail that you hide will be exposed eventually. Erica scolded in her mind. Why didn't you say that when you bullied Mercator and Velaslana? She looked at Athena and saw that the heavenly chains had tied her up tightly, and she could not move at all. The so-called god was now like a fish on the chopping board, and Dustless could do whatever he wanted to her. At this point, Erica actually sympathized with Athena. Encountering someone like Dustless, who didn't play by the rules, could be considered as her unlucky year. Slap, slap, slap. There were 2 more crisp sounds. Erica knew without looking that Athena's butt had been slapped again. Chapter 1432. Feeling the faint pain from her buttocks, Athena's eyes were spitting fire. If looks could kill, Dustless would have been reduced to dust by now. As one of the Trinity, she was actually spanked by a servant. Athena was so depressed that she wanted to vomit blood, especially when there was a bystander watching her suffer the greatest humiliation of her life. Athena wished she could find a hole to hide in. You dare to fight me? Dustless smiled smugly. In Erica's eyes, this frivolous and arrogant expression was a prelude. However, he had to admit that this trick was very effective against a goddess like Athena who thought highly of herself. The more Athena valued her dignity, the more Dustless trampled on it. I'm going to kill you, Athena growled. Her eyes were filled with endless coldness as she looked at Dustless. A mere servant dared to spank her master's buttocks. Where was her dignity? How was she going to survive in the future? Especially when there was a bystander. You're at such a disadvantage and you still want to kill me? Dustless sneered and reminded Athena out of friendship. Maybe you don't know, but I have a special hobby. I like to film the embarrassing state of the enemies I've defeated. Erica, go and bring me the high-definition camera I bought for 50 million yen. I want to film Miss Athena's unforgettable. Wait! Seeing that Erica really ran into the room, Athena finally could not hold it in any longer. The terrifying sound of teeth grinding also disappeared. In the end, she lowered her head and admitted defeat. Let me go this time. I can. Can what? This is a big problem. Athena thought hard for a long time but couldn't come up with a reason. Her delicate little face was troubled. Besides, she had always regarded Dustless as the best servant. Since you like to make me your servant so much, with a wicked smile Dustless suggested, then you can be my servant first. It feels good to have a goddess as my servant. Erica and Athena both spat out a mouthful of blood. Especially Athena. The veins on her forehead bulged and her body burst out with a purple-black evil light. It was a high-density murderous aura that was enough to make people collapse. Make me your servant? Athena was so angry that she laughed and said sarcastically, You fought me for 300 rounds. If you didn't defeat me with such despicable means, I wouldn't mind being your servant. However, Dustless ignored her. It just so happens that my arms have been a little sore recently. I might as well use your butt to train my arm strength. After saying that, Wu Chen went even further this time. He directly lifted Athena's clothes, revealing her white and tender skin. It was so dazzling that he felt dizzy. Just a moment ago, they were separated by clothes, but now they were touching skin to skin. You despicable and shameless bastard. I will kill you. Athena bellowed, not caring about her image as a goddess. However, Dustless turned a deaf ear to him. What he got in return was always that crisp collision. Pa pa pa. Athena's eyes widened. If she could, she wanted to bite Dustless to death. This guy was too evil. As a god-slayer, he did not have any demeanor that a god-slayer should have. He used the most despicable means without any bottom line. I agree to be your servant. Hurry up and let go of me. Athena, who had no choice, could only admit defeat. Who asked this guy to be so inhumane? Is it that simple? Dustless reluctantly withdrew his right hand. Looking at Athena's submissive expression, it did not seem like he was deceiving her. He removed the shackles of the heaven lock. Idiot, of course it's not that simple. As soon as he said that, Athena's expression changed faster than flipping a book. Black light surged in her hand, and a crescent-shaped sickle was formed in an instant. She swept it across the air without hesitation. Clang, clang, clang. The sound of steel colliding spread. When the cold light of the sickle was about to tear Dustless apart, it was stopped by a western sword and could not pass through for the time being. Well done, my lovely Miss Knight. Dustless gave her a thumbs up. Erica's reaction speed was very fast and decisive. Get out of my way. I'm going to get rid of this evil. Athena gnashed her teeth. Her butt was still numb. If it were not for Dustless's existence, she would have found a hole to hide in. Sorry, although I sympathize with your experience, a knight cannot run away from a battle. Erica's eyes were resolute, and her sonorous voice was unshakable. Also, as a god, are you going to go back on your words? Since you have agreed to be my king's servant, you should abide by the agreement. Erica said with a solemn expression. As a loyal knight, she hated people who went back on their words and destroyed the jump agreement the most. In her eyes, that was unforgivable. Humph, that's because this evil man used dirty means to force me. If it were you, would you be willing to be the servant of a mediocre man? Athena retorted without fear. Her words hit the nail on the head, and Erica, who was usually eloquent, was speechless. She racked her brains and found that she could not refute. It was undeniable that this was the undeniable truth. No matter who it was, they could not accept such unfair treatment, not to mention that Athena was a goddess with a loftier heart than the sky. Ah! Why are you saying that I'm a beast? I'm just playing a game with you, Miss Athena. Why do you hate me so much? Dustless raised his arm with an aggrieved expression, as if he had suffered a great loss. His face was full of pain. Even Erica wanted to help Athena fight against Dustless. Chapter 1433. Looking at Dustless, Erica finally understood Athena's interest. It was indeed tragic to have such a strange enemy. Get out of my way. Athena's eyes were filled with hostility. Her eyes glowed with blue light. Get out of the way, Erica. Dustless, sensing the danger, roared. Whoosh, whoosh. Although she didn't understand Dustless's intention, as a knight, Erica still chose to obey the king's order. She retreated to Dustless's side. Ka, ka, ka. The wall behind Erica was immediately unlucky and turned into rotten stone. What a dangerous and powerful ability. As expected of a god. Erica was amazed and felt lucky. If it weren't for Dustless, she might have turned into stone too. This was the strength of a god. The so-called geniuses were no match for them. Whoosh, whoosh. Athena flashed and appeared in front of Dustless with a stride. She brandished her scythe and charged over. Dustless frowned. Light gathered in his hand and compressed into a golden sword. It was impossible to make her submit without showing some of his strength. Clang, clang, clang. Dazzling sparks flew. The sharpness of Kusunagi's sword clashed with Athena's scythe. The shock waves from their battle forced Erica to step back. He's still so strong even without using his authority? Erica was impressed. Even without using his authority, Dustless could still fight a so-called god head-on and even suppress Athena. Bang, bang, bang. Dustless waved the heavenly sword of clouds with all his might. There was no technique to speak of. It was just the most violent and powerful strength. Athena was forced to retreat. What kind of monster is this guy? Sensing the numbing power in her hand, Athena was shocked. Now that she had regained her divine position, she had naively thought that she could crush Dustless. Now, the situation was completely opposite. Boom, boom, boom. Dustless's violent sword strikes did not contain any technique, but it forced Athena to retreat. She was completely suppressed, and it was obvious that Dustless was at a disadvantage. Although I have countless abilities, my strength is not weak either, Dustless said with a confident smile. After experiencing training in 4 different worlds, the strength of his fists had long reached a limit. His strength was strong enough to easily shatter mountains. Bang! As soon as his voice fell, Dustless increased the strength in his hand by dozens of times, forcing Athena to retreat. I'm indeed not as good as you, Athena said in a low voice. She gripped her scythe even tighter, and sweat had already appeared on her hands. The pressure of Mount Tai made her feel a sense of despair. She also felt a sense of respect for Dustless. After all, the strong were respected in every world, and Athena could not deny that Dustless had the right to do whatever he wanted. Strength represented everything. Really? He was willing to give up? Finally willing to leave? No, finally willing to be my servant. Dustless originally wanted to tell Athena to get lost and leave this place as soon as possible, but in the end, he decisively changed his mind. It was indeed a good thing to have a god as a servant to serve him tea. Dream on! Athena, whose face was red from choking, retorted and swung her scythe at him. Amaterasu! Dustless's eyes widened, and a large flame appeared in his hand, burning fiercely. Then he used all his strength and shouted, Earth Life! The Amaterasu instantly transformed into a sharp black sword. Let's see what's different. Athena, who did not believe it, snorted softly. A large black light condensed in her hand, and it looked extremely ferocious. It vaguely looked like a snake head full of fangs. Bite him to death! As soon as her voice fell, the black snake head that she had painstakingly condensed spewed out like a cannonball. In the blink of an eye, it rushed in front of Dustless, its bloody mouth open as if to swallow the world. Boring! With a light stroke of his arm, a ray of cold light swept across the void, and the giant snake was instantly eroded by the black flames. The miserable roar was completely different from the mighty roar just now. It was filled with endless pain, and in just a few seconds, the giant snake body was buried in the flames. So strong! Athena's eyes flashed with ripples when she saw this, and she instinctively took a step back. This overwhelming power was too strong, and it was difficult for her to have the courage to fight back. All that was left was pure despair. Whoosh! 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 A divine rainbow crossed time and space at an incredible speed, and when it landed in Athena's eyes, it was faster than the speed of light. By the time she reacted, the invincible black sword was already at her throat. It's over, Miss Athena. The young man's dry lips opened slightly, and as if he had jumped through space, he appeared in front of Athena, and the peerless divine sword ended this boring and meaningless battle. Still not convinced? Seeing that Athena was silent, Dustless smiled calmly and said, How about this? You choose a way of duel that suits you. You can choose any place, and you can decide the rules. No need. Athena shook her head, and her arrogant self-esteem instantly collapsed. The painful defeat made her understand the true meaning of, there is always someone better than you. What shocked her the most was that Dustless had used his own power, and Velaslana's authority did not have a single one. The condition before my trip is that I am willing to be your servant. Hearing this, Dustless stretched and thought to himself, that's more like it. Everything before was unnecessary. I can just use a strong fist to make her speechless. Chapter 1434. Do you need to take back the Gorgon Stone? Erica asked quietly after a few seconds of silence. Even though Erica's voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz and could be ignored, Athena, who was a god, heard it clearly. She immediately looked at Dustless nervously. If Dustless took it by force, she would not be able to do anything. It's useless to give me a stone, keep it. Without even thinking about it, Dustless refused. With the Gorgon Stone, Athena would have the strength of her heyday, and if she peeled off the Gorgon Stone, she would return to her original appearance and become a 12 or 13-year-old girl, and there was a fatal factor. Her strength would be greatly reduced. No one wants to have their strength reduced, especially Athena, who had just recovered her strength, and she did not want her strength to be short-lived and lose its shine after just one night. As such, Dustless did not try to snatch the Gorgon Stone by force. It's getting late, Let's go back to sleep, Dustless said and took the lead into the room. By the way, there are no extra rooms at the moment. Where are you going to sleep? Dustless asked as he turned to look at Athena, who was in her mature form. Although Kusanagi Protector's room was still empty, he could not let Athena sleep in a dead man's room. It's simple, Athena said casually and looked seriously at Dustless and said, I'm willing to accept my loss, and since I promised to be your servant after losing, I will definitely abide by the agreement, so I'll sleep in your room. Athena's matter-of-fact tone immediately aroused Erika's dissatisfaction, and she said, regardless of Athena's identity as a god, I strongly object. Mind your own business. Dustless pursed his lips, knowing what Erika was thinking, because often in the middle of the night, he would be ambushed by her. If Athena joined in, wouldn't it be worse? Absolutely not allowed. You can sleep in Kusanagi Protector's room. You two are good friends anyway. Erika made the decision for Dustless. Without giving Dustless a chance to speak, she brought Athena to Dustless's bedroom. It seemed that Athena was going to take over Dustless's room. F***CK. Is she really a servant? There's something wrong with this script. Why am I the one being kicked out? It seems like the master-servant relationship has really been switched. Above Dustless's head, 100,000 crows and 100,000 grass mud horses whizzed past. Stop right there and then. Striding to Erika and Athena, Dustless asked solemnly, to tell you the truth, I'm scared of ghosts. Why don't? Glancing at Athena from the corner of his eye, Dustless's appetite was aroused. After regaining her divine status and age, Athena's hot body was undoubtedly revealed. Her voluptuous cleavage was not inferior to Erika's at all. Her clothes were bulging. Especially the clothes she was wearing were rather special. In Dustless's eyes, her skin was vaguely visible, as if it were transparent. Her snow-white skin was vaguely visible. In particular, Athena's identity as a god was like a fatal poppy, teasing Dustless's already restless heart. How great would it be to have such a servant? She could fight with her body and warm up the bed. Dustless suddenly felt that such a servant was too worthwhile. Why don't I suffer and sleep with Athena? After saying that, Dustless reached out to grab Athena's soft arm, but he suddenly felt that something was wrong. It was hard and didn't feel like a soft and boneless hand. He instinctively turned his head. F***CK, you're so fast? Why didn't you react so quickly when I drew my sword to kill the enemy? Dustless slandered in his heart. What he was grabbing was a spear, and Erika was looking at him with an unfriendly face. Her eyes were clearly saying that there was no way he could steal her. Do you want me to sleep alone? Dustless was speechless. Although he didn't believe in ghosts, sleeping in the room of a person who had just died, and Dustless had even beaten him when he was alive, it was inevitable that he would be obedient. I don't mind. Athena's exquisite face was expressionless and calm. Her purple-black crystal eyes stared at Dustless, and a strange look flashed across her eyes. In fact, the gods had no opinion on the selection of a mate. There was only one criterion: weak strength. Nothing else mattered. In the ancient era that Athena had lived in, strength was even more important. Whether one was ugly or not, including other races, these were actually not important. In ancient myths, there were many stories of humans and beasts becoming partners. Hearing that, Erika almost vomited blood in frustration. She looked at Athena speechlessly. As a god, you're too blind. This guy is clearly trying to take advantage of you. What's the point of this? Seeing this, Dustless was secretly pleased. He winked at Erika and suggested a bad idea. If you think there's a problem, you can actually join us. Anyway, the bed is big enough to accommodate 3 people. I think there shouldn't be a problem. Erika was speechless. She didn't want to leave Dustless alone, but if she took the initiative to join them, she would lose face. You guys are still awake after all that noise? It's almost dawn now. A lazy voice came from the depths of the corridor. Looking over, Dustless realized that it was Kusanagi Shizuka. He knew that his plan to take down the goddess tonight was going to fail. Ahem. Shizuka. This is Athena. She's an assistant in the infirmary. Something happened today, so she can only stay at home. Why don't you two squeeze in? Erika pointed at Dustless and suggested. This guy is really good at lying. Turning back to the room, Dustless knew that he had no chance tonight. He knew Shizuka's personality very well. Although she was sometimes strict with her words, she was really kind at heart. Therefore, he would accept Erika's suggestion. Chapter 1435. The next morning, the sun shone brightly. Last night, Athena and Shizuka Kusanagi slept together. Dust had no choice but to release the fallen angel Asuma Amano from the original world temporarily to quench her thirst. After that, he let her go back. The devil's kung fu is so good. Dustless muttered as he put on his clothes. He was full of praises for Asuma Amano's kung fu. His legs were still a little weak. It will be ready sooner or later. Dustless bro, we will take our leave first. Shizuka Kusanagi's anxious voice came from downstairs. As for Dustless, he went downstairs leisurely. He was a doctor in the infirmary and had no other requirements. It was not a problem for him to wait for a while. Athena seems to have left too. He thought that Athena was still sleeping. Unexpectedly, there was no sign of her in Shizuka's room. She probably went out for something. Forget it. She shouldn't be missing. Dustless was too lazy to think about it since he could not find Athena. Her legs were her own, and he could not tie them up with a rope. After about half an hour, Wu Che finally arrived. It took him about 15 minutes to reach the infirmary. You really like lazy men. Before he opened the door of the infirmary, a dissatisfied voice came from inside. Is that the bald principal? Wu Chen asked suspiciously. He gently pushed the door open and was immediately dumbfounded. He stared blankly at the figure close at hand. His head was spinning a little. The person in front of him was wearing a white coat with black stockings. Her perfect figure was exposed. She exuded a mature aura and was holding a white notebook. Athena! After confirming that he was not short-sighted, Dustless looked as if he had seen a ghost. You are dressed like this. Are you also a health teacher in this school? No, I'm your assistant now, Athena said with a serious expression. Assistant? You don't have to worry about it. Hurry up and go home. Not many people come to the infirmary. I am redundant as a health teacher, let alone an assistant like you. Dustless ordered Athena to leave so that she could be more reliable. It was ridiculous to be a doctor's assistant. She was only good at killing people. It's redundant. Athena looked at the information in her hand and nodded. There were only a few people who felt unwell every month. Dustless, the healthcare teacher, slept almost every day. Hurry up. An anxious voice came from the corridor. The infirmary is just up ahead. You guys be careful. I'll call Teacher Dustless first. As expected of the Lord of Hell. As soon as you arrived, someone immediately came to treat you. Dustless laughed sarcastically. He couldn't help but take a second look at Athena. Her perfect figure was even more perfect than Dustless had imagined. Humph. Athena just coldly swept a glance at Dustless and directly ignored him. It seems to be for young girls, Dustless said with a frown. At the same time, he caught sight of a familiar figure rushing towards him. Her little face was flushed with exhaustion, and she ran into the clinic in a huff. No, Teacher Dustless, there's a new student in our class. She suddenly fainted during class and is still unconscious. Wanli Gu Yoli said anxiously. Her voice was filled with endless worry. She is... Athena was as eye-catching as the bright moon in the night. Wanli Gu Yoli was quite afraid. She moved her body and hid behind Dustless. Why is Athena here? And she's dressed like this? Are you guys cosplaying? Wanli Gu Yoli asked softly. Athena was wearing the same gown as Dustless. She obviously looked like a doctor. How could she not be surprised? I'm now the healthcare teacher here, or rather, her assistant. Your principal has already agreed. Athena said calmly. Her voice was as calm as an ancient well. Agreed? Did you use some kind of evil trick to force her to agree? Dustless asked suspiciously. He had doubts about Athena's character. Bring the patient here first. Dustless looked at the door. It was a silver-haired girl, and she looked familiar. Could it be? Dustless thought of the girl in front of him. Just as he was about to ask Wanli Gu Yoli, she started to explain. Her name is Liliana Kranikar. She's a new transfer student. Wanli Guyoli said bluntly. No wonder I remember her. So it's this girl. Does this mean that Marquis Warban wants to make a move on me? Even if he doesn't know his limits, there should be a limit. Dustless sneered in his heart. He was sure that Liliana Kranikar was temporarily sent here by him. He would probably come here in person soon. Be careful. Glancing at Wanli Guyoli, Dustless reminded her, the identity of a witch is very troublesome. You should know about the summoning ritual of the god of disobedience 4 years ago, right? Hearing this, Wanli Guyoli shivered and nodded silently. Really, you're too kind. You know that this guy could be an enemy, but you still chose to help him. Wanli Guyoli's kindness was overflowing. Thinking about it carefully, Marquis Warban was most likely targeting her. Dustless and Marquis Warban did not have any direct conflict. You two have similar personalities. Dustless changed the topic and said meaningfully. Wanli Guyoli blushed. When she first got close to Dustless, she pretended to be sick. Perhaps Liliana was no exception. All right, put this patient on the bed first. You can all go back to class. I'll treat her properly. Chapter 1436. Go back. Wanli Guyo looked at Dustless suspiciously. If Dustless did not know about Liliana's identity, she could still trust him. After all, they had no grudges against each other. However, now that she knew about Liliana's identity, the meaning was different. Don't worry, she's just a weak little girl. No matter how immoral I am, I won't kill her. Wu Chen made a solemn vow in a clear voice. All right then. Wanli Guyo took a deep look at Liliana and did not say much. Although they were both kings, Dustless had no reason to murder Liliana. After all, this guy could even let the god of disobedience go. There was no reason for him to murder a little girl. Moreover, just like what Wu Chen said, she was a little girl who didn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. With me around, she won't die, Athena said softly. Finally, they're all gone. After about 10 seconds, Wanli Guyo and Wanli Guyo left. Only Athena and Dustless were left in the huge healthcare room. You know her? Pointing at the pale girl, Dustless asked. The two of you should be familiar with each other. That's not important. Athena did not care and said casually, I know that this girl's identity is not simple. I'm just curious about the god slayer behind her. I see. Dustless understood and immediately approached Liliana's bedside quietly. He cleared his throat and a sly look appeared in his eyes. He decisively chose to use the same old trick and deliberately said to himself, she doesn't look like she's sick. Could it be caused by her period? Quickly take off her underwear and let me check. Athena, who had just sat down, stood up reflexively and looked at Dustless with a green face. She shouted angrily, Are you kidding me? How can such nonsense wake her up? Don't. However, what made Athena petrified was that Liliana really stood up angrily. You bastard! Liliana glared at him angrily. Her delicate face was flushed red, and her fists were cracking. Her piercingly cold eyes were as deep as the cold wind. The infirmary suddenly became chilly, as if it was in a world of ice and snow. Dustless ignored Liliana's murderous aura and said to Athena with a smile, Although some of his strategies are terrible, I can't deny that they are very useful. Miss Liliana, you dare to invade my territory, and even dare to injure people. Dustless said pointedly, This is a blatant provocation. Is Marquis Warban issuing a challenge to me? You know everything? Liliana was clearly stunned. She did not expect Dustless to know her identity. She clenched her fists tightly. Athena's appearance made her extremely nervous. As a god slayer, you actually colluded with a disobedient god? Liliana shouted angrily as she pointed at Athena. She believed that Dustless had betrayed humanity. Why not? In my eyes, there is no difference between humans, god-slayers, and gods. Dustless explained nonchalantly, Everything in the world is just a type of life form. There is only a difference in strength. Liliana moved her mouth. She clearly felt that Dustless was a big liar, but she was powerless to respond. Kill her, Athena said calmly. A purplish-black light floated in her hand, and a gleaming scythe appeared. It locked onto Liliana with hostility, not concealing her murderous intent. Liliana's expression changed drastically. She immediately felt that her body was not listening to her. She knew that this was the effect of Athena's murderous aura, and she was powerless to deal with it. No matter what kind of genius one was, they would be unable to cope with the strength of a god. Liliana did not even have the courage to resist, especially when faced with a god and a god slayer whose strength was unfathomable. To put it bluntly, if she wanted to hurt someone, she would definitely be killed in an instant. It was ridiculous for a mere human to dream of challenging a king and a god. Marquis Warban sent you here, right? That old man is not going to stop at all. Liliana tried to bluff her way out, but Dustless answered for her. He wants to use the god of disobedience, summoning ritual of the witches to kill more gods. His ambition is not small, and his desire for authority has reached the point where he has forgotten himself. Among the few god slayers, he seems to have the most authority. How does this guy know so much? Liliana did not seem to be moved, but her tightly shut mouth was clenched so hard that her teeth were about to shatter. I have heard of that god slayer, Athena suddenly said. She thought about it and recalled. He hunts gods for fun. In the past, the god of disobedience, summoning ritual was related to him. However, he is quite bold to dare to set his sights on me. Dustless sneered, and the air suddenly became bone-chilling. But I really don't understand. I have no relationship with him, and there is no enmity between us. Why did you enter Chengjia Academy? I only tamed Athena yesterday, and no matter how well-informed Marquis Warban is, he does not know that Athena is one of my people. Dustless was puzzled. Not tamed, but submitted. Athena's tone was full of anger. She was not a beast and did not need to be tamed. Athena had only submitted to Dustless yesterday, and Marquis Warban obviously could not have come for him, nor could it be Erika or Kusanagi Shizuka. To an arrogant king like Marquis Warban, humans were not worth mentioning. Thus, only Dustless was left, but he was sure that he had not offended Marquis Warban. Now that Liliana had come to him for no reason, he could not understand. Chapter 1437. Dustless expressed that he really did not understand. If not for the fact that he had no other choice, the Godslayers would not want to offend each other. Now that Marquis Oban had come to him for no reason, Dustless was confused. I can't tell you that. Liliana gritted her teeth and rejected Dustless's expectations. In fact, she had no other choice. If she told Dustless the truth, Liliana was sure that Marquis Oban would kill her, and her future would be as miserable as his servants of the dead. Rather than that, she would rather be killed by Dustless. Tiske tisk! Dustless smiled, and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Not only did Liliana's heart skip a beat, but even Athena's expression changed slightly. The king disdained using despicable means, but Dustless was different. He would use whatever method was the quickest, and it did not matter if it was despicable or not. As long as it succeeded. TSK. Erika is still in class. It's not appropriate to ask her to interrogate you on my behalf. It seems that I have to think of a way to solve this myself. Dustless knew that Erika had something on Liliana. The only pity was that Erika was in class at the moment. Dustless had to think of a way himself. Athena, prepare the clearest photo for me. Dustless suddenly said thoughtfully. I'll leave the photographer to you, Miss Athena. What do you want? Liliana and Athena asked at the same time. They looked at Dustless's cowardly smile, and bad thoughts arose in their minds. Idiot! Glaring at Athena, Dustless secretly scolded her for being insensible. He said righteously, Didn't Miss Liliana say that she's sick just now? I've observed that she has gynecological diseases. Gynecological diseases. Liliana felt as if 100 million crows had flown past her forehead. Her whole face was twitching as she stared at Dustless, dumbfounded. She had already guessed what this guy was going to say. Our school's health center is lacking teachers. Including you and me, there are only 2 of us. How sad is this? So when I treat Miss Liliana's gynecological disease later, you have to film the whole process. In the future, we can use it to publicize and tell the world about the greatness of our doctors. We can also use it as a free advertisement to attract more students. Dustless said with a serious expression. This guy. Looking at the serious Dustless, Athena was so angry that she was speechless. She looked at Liliana with pity and gave her a sympathetic look. Then, he went to prepare the video camera. Fortunately, there was only one left in the clinic. Die! Unable to bear it any longer, Liliana exploded and slashed with her sword. Poochie! The tip of the sword sliced through Dustless's body, slicing him into two. Before Liliana could even be pleasantly surprised, a warm glow emerged from the wound, and the split wound instantly healed. Too weak. Dustless shook his head and looked at Liliana's feet. He covered the left and right side of armament hockey and simply grabbed the long sword that could cut iron like mud. Let go of me! Liliana shouted angrily, and at the same time, she used all her strength to increase her strength. However, sadly, no matter how hard she tried, she could not shake Dustless. Answer my question and I will let go. Dustless smiled contemptuously, knowing that Liliana would not give in if he did not teach her a lesson, so he lazily snapped his fingers. Kakaka! Liliana's school uniform suddenly burst, leaving only her underwear and underwear. The other dazzling snow-white skin was all exposed under Dustless's eyes. Shameless! Liliana cursed and quickly trotted to the corner to hide. Athena Ninja filmed this scene and carefully observed how the legendary beast was raised. Are you sick? You need treatment. Dustless shrugged casually and slowly approached Liliana. At this moment, she was like a frightened rabbit. She had no fighting spirit and was abandoned by the world. Looking at Dustless, who was approaching her step by step, Liliana's insistence was completely crushed. Don't come over. I'm willing to tell you everything. Unable to take the blow, Liliana had no choice but to confess. She hurriedly said, "It was your master who spread the news, announcing to the world that you are her disciple. Marquis Warban and Luo Hao are mortal enemies, so he sent me to spy on you." She betrayed me? Dustless was instantly petrified. After a while, the corner of his mouth twitched and asked, "Luo Hao did this on purpose. I'm afraid she wants Marquis Warban to find trouble with me. Her purpose is probably to train me. But her plan is too insidious. What if I can't beat her and get killed by Marquis Warban? Even if you want to cheat your apprentice, you can't do this. I don't know about this. Anyway, the news that you are Luo Hao's apprentice was spread by the Five Mountains Holy Sect under her orders. Marquis Warban and the Jiangnan Martial Queen are mortal enemies, so..." Seeing Dustless finally stop, Liliana relaxed. "You still need to train?" This time, it was Athena's turn to be speechless. In her opinion, Marquis Warban was not here to find trouble, but to die. That's her personality. Dustless did not know whether to laugh or cry. His face was full of confusion. No wonder Marquis Warban didn't mind the trouble of coming to Japan to find me. He probably wants to kill me as well. Luo Hao and Warban are mortal enemies. He probably wants to kill me to annoy Luo Hao, but he overlooked a big problem. I'm afraid he's the one who will be killed this time. Even though Warban had the most power, it was still not enough in Dustless' eyes. Power did not mean victory or defeat. They were completely incomparable. Chapter 1438. It was not that Dustless looked down on Marquis Oban, but he was too weak. Even Kusanagi guardians could not defeat him, let alone someone of his level. If he's not afraid of death, he can come at me. Stretching his body, Dustless said casually, "All right, Miss Liliana, you can leave now. We don't need your cooperation here anymore. You're free now." Liliana acted as if she did not hear him and stood there in a daze. Maybe she knows that she will die if she leaves. After all, she betrayed her king. That Marquis Oban is not a good person. He treats his subordinates like dirt. If he is unhappy, he can kill anyone at any time. Athena's beautiful eyes glowed as she saw through Liliana's thoughts. So it's because of this? Dustless frowned. Liliana's disguise was not bad, but she could not fool his golden gaze. Marquis Oban's cruelty was well known. Among the Godslayers, he had killed the most gods. Also, even if he killed Liliana, it would not be a big deal. She could still assist him in another way. She would become a servant of death. Hee. Dustless let out a strange laugh. Liliana and Athena instinctively distanced themselves from this guy. Who asked him to be so dangerous and perverted? How about I show you a way out? Since you have nowhere else to go, why don't you be my... I heard that Liliana has sneaked into this school. Be careful. Erica interrupted Dustless without hesitation and barged into the healthcare room. She happened to see Liliana, who was only in her underwear, and Athena, who was busy filming. Liliana? Erica. The two girls said in unison. They obviously knew each other. You came at the right time, Erica. This girl is Marquis Oben's subordinate. Now that she has betrayed that old man, how do you think I should deal with her? Deal with her? Is there a need to ask? Of course, we should rope her into our camp, Erica said without thinking. She had a good relationship with Liliana, but because of their different positions in the past, they were almost at odds with each other. Now that she had betrayed Marquis Warban, Erica would definitely not let go of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Humph. Don't even think about it. Even if I die, I refuse to join this scum's camp. Liliana's face turned red. Now that she was only left with her underwear, she wished she could find a hole to hide in. Really? What a pity. A sly smile appeared on Erica's face as she heaved a long sigh. I was just about to publish your romance novel. I didn't expect you to seek your own death. Romance novel? Hearing this, Dustless and Athena were both stunned. Dustless said curiously, read it out loud. I want to hear Liliana's great literary talent. All right. With an elegant smile, Erica took out the notebook that was filled with words. Not caring about Liliana's blushing face at all, she began to read, Your love for me is like... Pfft. After hearing the first few sentences, Dustless could not help but laugh. He looked at Liliana with his mouth agape and said in astonishment, I didn't know you could write romance novels. He gave Liliana a thumbs up without hesitation, then motioned for Erica to continue reading. We are like... Wait, I agree to your request. Liliana hurriedly begged for mercy. Their malicious smiles were a far greater blow to her than a simple physical attack. She had to suppress her anger and lower her head. Moreover, after offending and betraying Marquis Warban, unless she found someone to protect her, she would end up in a miserable state. The best outcome would be to become Marquis Warban's servant. That's the right choice, Miss Liliana. You will be honored by your decision in the future. Seeing that Liliana had given in, Dustless heaved a sigh of relief and said with a smile, If Marquis Warban knows that you betrayed him, that old fellow will definitely go berserk. Indeed. Liliana nodded in agreement. She understood Marquis Warban's character. Or rather, every person in a high position and power would be extremely wary of one kind of person. Traitors. You want to use this little girl as bait to lure him? The intelligent Athena immediately understood Dustless's intention. She nodded and said, It's not impossible to give it a try. Given Warban's personality, he will definitely take the initiative to kill us. Are you crazy? Liliana's eyes were gloomy, and she muttered to herself like a machine. That fellow is a god slayer, and he is the oldest supermaster who has killed the most gods. To be honest, if he hadn't killed so many gods, I wouldn't have been interested in him. It's precisely because he has killed so many gods that I am interested in him. Dustless said nonchalantly. If Marquis Warban could kill the most gods, it meant that he definitely had something extraordinary about him. He wanted to see how heaven-defying that old fellow was. I think so too. Athena's beautiful eyes were smiling. It was rare for her to stand in the same trench as Dustless. That fellow's target, apart from Dustless, seems to be Wanli Guyoli as well. Of course, I can't let him go. Even if we don't provoke such an ambitious person, he won't let us go. Therefore, I also agree to kill Marquis Warban. Erica's beautiful face was tense, and her breath was cold. You? Liliana moved her mouth, but in the end, she couldn't be bothered to say more. As the king, Dustless had already made the decision, so what could she, a small pawn who had just joined this group, say? Moreover, Athena, this big shot, had also agreed. Chapter 1439. The minority obeys the majority. This was a principle that had not changed since ancient times. We can gather Duke Warban, but we must at least have a suitable plan. We can't act rashly. The other party is the king with the most information and the most authority. Liliana said with a serious expression. So what? That old fellow is actually very useless. He's just a little more experienced. Why does he like killing gods? It can be understood as a sign of cowardice. It's because he realizes that he's not strong enough, that he wants more authority. There's no need for a superfluous plan. Just trick him out and beat him up. Dustless said casually. You're right. I actually think so too. A plan is too superfluous. Just tell him whose fist is bigger with pure strength. Athena agreed with Dustless's method, which was rare. The two jumped into the same trench at the same time and cooperated quite well. Erica sighed inwardly in disbelief. It was truly a miracle that two incompatible tigers could cohabit together. Erica, what do you think? Hearing Dustless and Athena's casual tone, Liliana could only look at Erica for help, hoping that she would give a suggestion that a normal person would have. Liliana, this plan is indeed a little superfluous. Erica shrugged and said apologetically, you have to understand that we have a king, a trinity goddess, and two powerful knights on our side. There's no need for a plan at all. The one who should be worried is Marquis Warban. Liliana opened her mouth but chose to close it in the end. She knew that the wise Erica of the past had disappeared. She had been brainwashed by Dustless and Athena. Then let's take it one step at a time. Liliana finally compromised. Thinking about it carefully, Erica's words made sense. The one who should be worried was indeed Marquis Warban. After all, they had the advantage. Lord Marquis. Liliana's respectful voice came from the dark and cold palace. She stood in the middle with her head lowered, not daring to breathe loudly or even raise her head. Even so, Liliana still felt her skin trembling uncontrollably. Her life would be mercilessly taken away by the master on the throne at any time. Liliana, Marquis Warban looked up at the girl and asked calmly, how is the information I need coming along? Don't give me a disappointing answer, or else. You know the consequences. With that, Marquis Oban released his killing intent. So strong. Liliana broke out in cold sweat. She forced the throbbing in the depths of Anai's soul and quickly said, Lord Marquis, I have already inquired about that Dustless. Really? Marquis Warban chuckled and withdrew his murderous aura as he expectantly asked, how did you attain the Tao? And is that fellow really Luo Hao's disciple? I did it through. Liliana paused for a moment as she recalled Dustless's bad idea. She secretly cursed him for being a pervert before she clenched her teeth and said, that guy is a pervert. I used my body in exchange for information. Liliana stared at Marquis Warban nervously. When she saw him nod as if he believed in this passable method, she was relieved. So that fellow really is Luo Hao's disciple. Then let's start with him. I heard that the witch named Wanli Gu Yoli is also very close to him. Let's get rid of them all at once. Marquis Warban chuckled, full of pride. He hated Luo Hao so much that he gritted his teeth. Other than that, there's also great news. Liliath glanced at Marquis Warban and said cautiously, other than that, Goddess Athena seems to be with that fellow. Are you sure? A greedy glint flashed in Marquis Warban's eyes. His tone rose several notches as he exclaimed, Goddess Athena? Ha ha ha. I've been looking for her for so long. I didn't expect her to be with Dustless. I didn't expect God to be so kind to me. My enemies, prey, and assets are all gathered in one place. I've changed my mind. Take me to hunt them tonight. Marquis Warban tried to hide his calmness, but Liliana could still hear the anticipation and excitement in his voice. Her lips curled into a sinister smirk. This old man was too full of himself. At the same time, he had underestimated Dustless. Time passed quickly, and in the blink of an eye, it was the dead of night. Marquis Warban and his party arrived at the previously agreed-upon location in advance. He looked as if he had taken a stimulant. His face flushed. However, what made him frown was that the surroundings were cold and dark. There was no one in sight. It was barely what he had imagined. Are you sure it's here? Marquis Warban raised his eyebrows slightly. There was doubt in his voice. Of course. Liliana nodded affirmatively with a faint smile hanging at the corner of her mouth. Those fellows are really stupid. They had to find a suitable place to be buried. How could they choose such a barren place? How vulgar of them to treat their own funeral. Marquis Warban sneered contemptuously. They The corners of his mouth twitched, and he was about to mock Dustless and his party when the night suddenly brightened. A fierce horse made of flames descended from the sky, and the sky suddenly cleared up. "Damn it, we've been tricked." Marquis Warban, who was full of fighting spirit, spat out a mouthful of blood. Chapter 1440. Marquis Warban was not an idiot. Instead, he was very shrewd. When the flaming horse had just descended from the sky, Liliana had taken the initiative to distance herself from him. What did this mean? Even a 3-year-old child knew what this meant. He had been abandoned. "You dare betray me?" Marquis Warban was furious. He had always been the one toying with others. He had not expected to be toyed with by Liliana. It was a great humiliation. Absolutely unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. "Oh, woo." Marquis Warban was exceptionally calm in the face of the raging flames. He did not hesitate to use his abilities, and his appearance changed greatly in an instant. "So big." Liliana, who had retreated far away, was shocked. She saw Marquis Warban transform into a huge werewolf. He was more than 30 meters tall, and he looked fearlessly at the falling horse. "Oh, woo! Oh, woo! Oh, woo!" His roars echoed throughout the sky. Just as the flaming horse was about to swallow Marquis Warban, a change suddenly occurred. "Oh, woo!" Marquis Warban opened his mouth leisurely, his huge mouth full of fangs swallowing the flames of the white horse. After that, Marquis Warban burped as if he had not had enough. "Kiki!" Eerie laughter came from Marquis Warban's mouth. He roared fearlessly at the sky, his voice full of destruction. "Dustless, I know you're hiding in the dark, you coward. Come out if you have the guts. Fight me to the death." Marquis Warban was like a madman who had lost control. He was in a deranged state, and his body was filled with a bone-piercing killing intent that made people want to retreat. However, the world was solemn, and no one paid him any attention. This made Marquis Warban feel even more humiliated. "Since you won't come out, I'll deal with this traitor." Marquis Warban turned his head and locked onto Liliana, his eyes cold. Every time his huge body twisted, there would be a cracking sound. The ground could not bear Marquis Warban's weight and collapsed. "Damned traitor," Marquis Oban said through gritted teeth. This stain was even worse than a slap to his face. Marquis Oban's dignity had been severely challenged and looked down upon. It's just a mere beast, yet it dares to behave so atrociously towards humans. Nowadays, public morals are truly degenerating with each passing day. A frivolous and ear-piercing voice came from afar, accompanied by a large flash of light. 1,000 meters. 100 meters. 10 meters. 1 meter. The light approached at an inconceivable speed, appearing above Marquis Warban's head in an instant. Light speed kick. Dustless took advantage of Marquis Warban's dazed state to kick him in the eye. Boom, boom, boom. The light came and went quickly, but the injuries inflicted on Marquis Warban were difficult to erase. His right eye had traces of burn marks. Ka. The powerful force caused his 30-meter-tall body to lose its balance. Marquis Warban found it difficult to maintain his balance and was about to fall to the ground. So, in the end, Marquis Warban chose to give up and return to his free body. Even though his body looked powerful, it was not easy to deal with. "You think this is the end?" The floating light in the sky asked coldly. Both of his arms fell at the same time, and a rain of golden bullets fell from the sky. The number of bullets left Marquis Warban completely flabbergasted. "Yasakani no Magatama." A large amount of light poured down, and the sharp sound of the air being torn apart was chilling. It was filled with despair and coldness. There was no suitable ability to try and stop Dustless. "Humph, I want to see how powerful you are." Forced into a corner, Marquis Warban once again spread out his wolf body, wanting to rely on the hardness of his body to withstand the devastation of this move. This guy is really an idiot. He wants to rely on the hardness of his body to resist the Yasakani no Magatama. I hope he doesn't turn into a sieve. Dustless sneered. Using another ability at such a crucial moment would only increase the number of places Marquis Warban would be attacked. The curtains of a bloody massacre immediately opened. As time slowly passed, Marquis Warban managed to resist many attacks with his tough body, but it was only a portion of the light bullets. There was still a large number of light bullets waiting for him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Marquis Warban was covered in blood and flesh. More and more scorched holes appeared on the surface of his body. Just from looking at the surface of Marquis Warban's skin, it seemed like he was going to be poked into a beehive. There were holes everywhere. Beep beep beep. Blood continued to drip from Marquis Warban's body. At a closer look, he was already riddled with holes. His abdomen, arms, and even his head had wounds from the attacks. You bastard! Marquis Warban raised his head and stared at Dustless. He had never seen someone so detestable, someone who wanted nothing more than to eat his flesh and drink his blood. You still haven't given up? Dustless frowned and softly said. Fine. Since you want to die so much, I'll reluctantly fulfill your wish. You defeated super scum. You think you can kill me? Marquis Warban laughed as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Even your master, Luo Hao, couldn't do it, let alone a disciple like you. Try to kill me in your next life. Foolish thing, repent for your crimes. Gathering a large amount of high-density energy in his body, Dustless was serious this time. Gazing at Marquis Warban's miserable face, the smile on Dustless's face growing wider. He really couldn't understand how this old man could resist. Chapter 1441. Marquis Warban had a look of disdain on his face. Although he had been severely injured due to his carelessness, it would still be difficult to take his life. Thus, even though he was ill, he was not afraid of Dustless. At most, it would be a fight to the death, and both sides would suffer. You think you can hurt me? Dustless glanced at Marquis Warban, a look of disdain flashing in his eyes. The spiritual pressure all over his body erupted. Looking at the miserable Marquis Warban, Dustless softly muttered, Dowbreaker 90, Black Coffin. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. A sharp sound pierced through the air. Warily, Marquis Warban tried to find the source of the sound, but it was too late. Poochie! 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 His already unbearable body was once again covered in bloody scars. The ghastly injuries made one shudder, and Marquis Warban grimaced in pain. Even so, Marquis Warban still stood tall. This guy. His body is very strong. Dustless muttered. It was a miracle that he could still stand after suffering such heavy injuries. Of course, it could also be seen that this old man's strength was extraordinary, and that he was very familiar with the various powers he controlled. Now it's my turn to counterattack. Marquis Warban roared, his eyes shooting out waves of oily green light as they locked onto Dustless's head, a sinister smile on his face. Still thinking. Oh, not a bad ability. Dustless nodded. He felt his right arm slowly stiffen, turning into a pure white mysterious crystal, as if it had turned into stone. His blood stopped flowing, and he was unable to move. But your eye technique will only be effective for a short period of time against a godslayer like me, Dustless replied indifferently, giving him a deep look as he spoke. What's wrong with this guy? His annoying tone is really annoying, Marquis Warban said. Marquis Warban said gloomily. Dustless's omniscient tone made him feel as if he knew everything, which made him rather unhappy. It doesn't matter if it's effective for a short period of time, it's enough. Staring coldly at Dustless, Marquis Warban smiled cunningly, his face filled with insolence. He increased the output of his eye power, and most of Dustless's body turned into salt crystals in a short period of time. You can't move now. Come out, my lovely servants. Marquis Warban laughed coldly. Countless shadows appeared on the ground. These people had no aura, and their clothes were clearly different from what they were wearing now. Most of them were wearing armor, similar to the attire of European warriors. Although it's only for a short while, I can use this free time to get rid of you. Marquis Warban waved his hand and shouted, Go, my servants! Ayo, 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 ayo. The servants of death were like mad beasts. They hadn't eaten for many years, and they all viciously pounced on Dustless, wanting to be devoured by this delicious food. These ants are too much of an eyesore. A thick purplish-black python descended from the sky, its bloody mouth open 360 degrees. Crack! Many of the servants of death were crushed by its sharp fangs, and its thick sinuous body swayed vigorously. Its strength was so great that a light touch could send all of the servants of death flying. Athena. Looking up at the domineering lady standing in the sky, Dustless found that after fusing with the Gorgon stone, she had become stronger and stronger. It was obvious that she had control of this powerful force. "You're in a tight spot, Dustless," Athena teased. "If you're willing to beg me, I don't mind helping you take care of this hungry wolf." "Athena?" Marquis Oban was stunned when he heard that. He immediately thought of a god that matched the identity of the peerless girl in front of him, and the greed in his eyes was undisguised. Dustless pursed his lips and said disdainfully, "Do you think I can't take care of such a small fry? Besides, pay attention to your identity, my lovely maid." Done talking, Dustless directly shattered his own body, turning into a pile of fragments. "Ha ha ha ha, is that guy an idiot? The crystallization of salt can only last for a short period of time, and it will not take long for it to recover. This idiot shattered his own body? Ha ha ha, he killed himself." Savage laughter rang through the sky as Marquis Oban mocked Dustless without restraint. "What's going on? It's dawn?" Marquis Oban, who was laughing maniacally, froze. He suddenly realized that the world in his eyes was dazzling, as if he was suddenly close to the center of the sun, extremely bright. "What's there to be surprised about?" A ghostly voice rang out. Looking at the source, Dustless's shattered body had recovered. "Impossible, you're already dead," Marquis Oban shouted in panic, and there was a rare trace of fear in his voice. No one could accept the sudden resurrection of a dead person. "Illusion, it must be an illusion," Marquis Oban denied vehemently. "Idiot." Dustless did not say much. He just coldly raised his feet and aimed at Marquis Oban's head. Light-speed kick. Under the night sky, the glittering gold-plated right leg was especially dazzling. The light, which contained 500 kilograms of force, blasted toward Oban's aged face. Crack, crack, crack. The clear sound of bones cracking could be heard, followed by a black shadow flying backward. Boom, boom, boom. Marquis Oban's appearance was particularly miserable. The bridge of his nose had sunk in, and due to the excessive heat, his cheeks had melted, leaving behind a mark of humiliation, Dustless's footprint. "You've offended Marquis Oban." Liliana smiled bitterly. As a European, Marquis Oban valued etiquette. Now that Dustless had left an irremovable footprint on his face, and his opponent was Luo Hao's disciple. Chapter 1442. Perverted Human. Athena could not help but be impressed. If this was the power of a god, then so be it. The key was that Dustless was using his own strength. For a human to reach this level, he was not inferior to a god. Even in the face of Dustless's countless trump cards, Athena was defeated twice in a sorry state. "Damn it! Damn it! Damn it!" Marquis Oban touched his rough cheeks in agony. His pale old face was distorted. Being stepped on was far worse than being killed. He had no choice but to accept a tragic reality. He seemed to be no match for Wu Chen. This is a great humiliation. Marquis Oban smashed the floor. Ignoring the intense pain, he suddenly stood up and waved his hand. "My loyal servants, chop that brat into pieces." That brat was naturally Dustless. He still hasn't given up on his evil intentions. Athena frowned. Her purple-black gem-like eyes blinked, and a crisp sound rang out. "Ka-ka-ka." The frenzied army of death servants were all petrified and turned into hard stones. As for Marquis Oban, there was no trace of him. "We can't let him escape. It's very troublesome." Erica and Liliana were about to give chase, but Dustless stopped them. He smiled faintly and said, "If that old man is tactful, I'll spare him this time." "Your Majesty, you're too kind," Liliana said unwillingly, but she still retreated. "He's like this sometimes." Erica shrugged. She was used to it. "It's like nurturing a tiger." Athena said bluntly, "If you let a dying wolf go, he might bring back a pack of bloodthirsty tigers next time." "Ah, that's really scary." Dustless put on a fearful expression and shrunk his neck, as if he was afraid of what Athena said. "That's not important anymore. Let's go home. Yoli and Jinghua have probably been waiting for us for a long time." After saying that, Dustless took the girl's hands and left happily. Even though no one knew about the battle between Dustless and Marquis Oban, the fact that Marquis Oban had fled back to Europe left an indelible impression on everyone. As expected of my disciple. In the shabby nunnery, the girl's narcissistic and proud murmur could be heard. This was Luo Hao's territory in the depths of Mount Lushan. Ever since Marquis Warban left Europe for Japan, she had sent people to keep an eye on Europe's every move. The news of Marquis Warban fleeing back to Europe in a sorry state had reached Luo Hao's ears immediately. I heard that Dustless left a footprint on Warban's face. Hee. Serves him right. Luo Hao's gentle laughter was as pleasant as the sound of a mountain spring crashing against a rock. She smiled like a beautiful woman. There was no better news than this. Dustless helped her vent her anger. But that kid's actions are really amazing. Before he became a god slayer, he killed 2 gods. Now, he even defeated Marquis Warban. He's not simple. Luo Hao was sincerely impressed. She also thought that she was favored by the heavens. However, compared to Dustless, her achievements seemed to be worthless and not worth mentioning. In fact, when Dustless left Mount Lushan for Italy, Luo Hao had sent people to secretly follow him. She had been paying attention to Dustless's movements at all times. I heard that he even tamed Athena, the god of disobedience, and made her his servant. That kid is really brave. I even heard that he spanked Athena. Thinking of this, Luo Hao's face was faintly red, and her eyes were somewhat empty. No one knew what she was thinking. At night, the moonlight was like a plate, and the sky was full of bright stars. Another one? Oh no, if it's Senpai Wanrigu, then it's 2. Shizuka Kusanagi sat opposite Dustless with a serious expression. She put on an interrogative expression and said, "Our house is about to become your harem base." Erika, Athena, Liliana, Wanrigu Yoli, including Shizuka herself, there were exactly 5 women. Dustless moved his mouth and looked at Athena and Erika, hoping that they could explain their pain. However, Erika was elegantly drinking coffee, and Athena was holding a girl's magazine and reading it seriously, as if it had nothing to do with them. That's too heartless. Dustless complained in his heart, but he still forced himself to explain. Liliana is my patient. I'm the only one who understands her condition. The others will only cause trouble. As for Wanrigu Yoli, she's my assistant. Dustless casually found a lame excuse and said without blushing or panting. Why did he shove Wanrigu Yoli over? In fact, Dustless also understood Kanajima's thoughts. He just wanted to use him, hoping that something breakthrough would happen. Isn't your assistant me? Athena asked in a slightly dazed manner. You're fired, Dustless said bluntly. Where were you when I was besieged? She even tried to poach Dustless. Seeing that Athena was not qualified, he decisively fired her. What you say doesn't count, Athena said disapprovingly. In the past, she couldn't wait to leave Dustless. Now she had changed her mind. Although she couldn't fight with this old man under the same roof, she wouldn't be bored. It was much better than wandering around in the past. Chapter 1443. Dustless rolled his eyes when he heard this. He suddenly realized that he really had no way to dismiss Athena. When he first joined Qingjia School, he did not receive any news. It was all the fault of the Baldi principal. Speaking of which, what are we eating tonight? Dustless sniffed and suddenly found an unusually pleasant aroma. His mind was also hooked, and his eyes involuntarily swept toward the kitchen. This doesn't seem to be the kind of cooking that Hikari is good at. Dustless was quite curious. Just as he was about to go to the kitchen to observe, Erika's voice stopped Dustless. Liliana is cooking tonight. Her cooking skills are very good, very good. Erika licked her thin lips, revealing an expression of great appetite. I know that. Dustless nodded in agreement. Then he looked at Liliana, who was frowning and filled with resentment, and said calmly, but she doesn't seem to be willing. I can feel her resentment in the living room. That's not something I can control. Erika shrugged, showing an expression that said it had nothing to do with her. However, the wicked smile that could not be hidden no matter how hard she tried to hide it showed that this matter was inextricably linked to her. Don't tell me. Erica is really sinister. Wuchen vaguely understood what kind of outrageous things Erica had done. He immediately gave her a hopeless look. Don't tell me that you're threatening Liliana with romance novels again? Dustless's expression was strange, and he did not know whether to laugh or cry. It's fine as long as you don't make a fire. If you tear down the house, Hikari will definitely come after me again. Looking at the smiling Hikari Kusanagi, she seemed to be amused by Erica's actions. There was a satisfied smile on her face that had not been there before. Kusanagi Kuto, I took care of your sister very happily. You can rest in peace in the netherworld. Dustless stretched and closed his eyes. He was really tired after the battle with Marquis Warban. At the same time, inside an abandoned warehouse somewhere in Europe, the gloomy and oppressive environment made people despair. Living things were forbidden, and only the squeals of rats could be heard. Occasionally, a dark shadow would pass by, adding to the fear. Salvatore Anthony, the pale old man with oily eyes said in a low voice, I didn't expect you to keep the appointment. Looking at Salvatore Tony, who was fully armed, he continued, but you may be disappointed. I'm not here to fight with you this time. Uncle Warban, you're not looking for a fight? Aren't you looking for me for revenge? That was really disappointing. After all, I've snatched your prey. Salvatore Anthony was quite surprised. There was a slight fluctuation in his tone. He immediately looked at the looming footprints on his face. It seems that you have suffered a great loss when you went to Japan to deal with the God Slayer. You? Thick killing intent flashed in Marquis Warban's eyes, but he suppressed his rage and hoarsely said, I will definitely settle this score with that guy called Dustless and Luo Hao. Settle this score? Salvatore Anthony curled his lips and said disdainfully, I heard that Dustless is Luo Hao's apprentice. You can't even beat her apprentice. Do you think you have a chance of winning with Luo Hao? Of course not. Without even thinking about it, Marquis Warban admitted frankly and replied, that Dustless is very strong. I even suspect that he is stronger than Luo Hao. If Dustless were here to hear this, he would definitely give a thumbs up and say, you have good taste. Stronger than Luo Hao? Hearing this, Salvatore Anthony's eyes flashed with surprise. Luo Hao was a famous Valkyrie, and Dustless was just her apprentice. Moreover, Dustless had been a god slayer for less than a month. It sounded like a fantasy that he was stronger than a god slayer who had been around for more than 200 years. Humph, this is an undeniable fact. Despite his reluctance, Marquis Warban had to admit that he was ambushed. However, in this world, there was only victory and defeat. Who cared about the process? And the most tragic thing was that Dustless had a super follower like Athena. Therefore, Marquis Warban was destined to end up in a miserable defeat. That's really exciting. Salvatore Anthony's eyes flashed with a fiery light. He could not wait to grow wings and fly to Japan to fight with Dustless. He took the bait. Marquis Warban laughed secretly. Salvatore Anthony was not interested in anything, but when it came to talking about a battle, he would pay more attention. By the way, why did you ask to meet me in private? Salvatore Anthony frowned and asked, don't tell me you want to work with me to find trouble with Dustless? Why can't I? Seeing that Salvatore Anthony had seen through his intentions, Marquis Warban admitted, Dustless is very strong, and he has a god follower, Athena, who is extremely powerful. In addition, he has a master, Luo Hao. Who can defeat such a person in a one-on-one fight? Only if we form an alliance can we have a chance of winning. Find a god's follower? Salvatore Anthony widened his eyes and asked in disbelief. The gods were extremely arrogant. They would not bow down to anyone, and the god slayers were no exception. Before the god slayers killed the gods, they were just ordinary humans. Chapter 1444. Dustless naturally did not know about the premeditated plan of Warban, the Marquis, and Salvatore Tony. Of course, if he knew, he would not care. Anyway, life was boring enough, and it would not be a bad thing if someone came to provoke him. Do you want to join forces with me? Salvatore Anthony asked seriously, grasping the key point. Of course. Marquis Warban nodded and said, he is too strong. I can't deal with him alone, and I don't think you can either. Don't compare me to you, Salvatore Tony said coldly, and at the same time, He was also very interested in Marquis Warban. In any case, one thing was undeniable. Dustless seemed to be very strong. If it was as Marquis Warban said, the situation was very unfavorable for them. Dustless, Luo Hao, a super god, and two powerful knights, such a combination was invincible. Then I will join forces with you. Salvatore Tony finally gritted his teeth and said. He was very interested in Dustless. Time flew by, and the next morning, a large group of people set off from Shizuka Kusunagi's house. Athena was Dustless's assistant, so naturally, she was always by his side. As knights, Liliana and Erika, Shizuka Kusunagi and Wanriga Yoli were also always by his side. They are going to cut me into pieces. Dustless was speechless and smiled bitterly. He found that everyone was looking at him with envy, jealousy, and hatred, as if he was a thorn in their side. Ahem. Athena, pay attention to your image. Dustless coughed dryly. Because he had given the Gorgon stone to Athena, she had always maintained the appearance of 18 or 19, and was no longer the 12 or 13-year-old child she used to be. She was very close to Dustless, and her body exuded a very strong fragrance, tempting Dustless's nerves. Athena herself was very cold, and gave people the feeling that they wanted to conquer her. What's the matter? Athena turned her head and looked at Dustless. She did not hide her doubts. I also want to ask you, where did you come from? Athena raised her head and revealed a thoughtful expression. Her adorable look was quite cute. Athena, who was known as the goddess of wisdom, had a very different look when she revealed this expression. It had a different style. Can you stay away from me? I might be swallowed alive by Erika and Liliana. Dustless leaned close to Athena's ear and said gloomily. His eyes fell on the heads of Liliana and Erika, and his eyes were filled with resentment. No matter when a woman saw the man she liked talking and laughing with another woman, she would always be dissatisfied. Sigh. Seeing this, Athena did not restrain herself. Instead, she deliberately pulled Dustless closer and revealed a naughty smile. She whispered, I suddenly found a good way to defeat you. Defeat me? Dustless couldn't help but laugh. His eyes were full of disdain as he said disdainfully, with your level, it's too embarrassing for you to deal with me at my peak. Is that so? Athena turned a deaf ear to Dustless's arrogance and responded with a chuckle as if it didn't exist. At this moment, Athena suddenly stood in front of Dustless and licked her red rose lips. The sly smile on Athena's face deepened. What do you want? Erika and Liliana were on guard at the same time. When Athena wasn't around, it didn't matter if they had internal strife. But when Athena was an unprecedented enemy, Erika and Liliana had to work together to deal with her. Oh! Athena looked at Dustless shyly with a shy expression. Her red face revealed two drunken blushes. Not only that, Athena's emotions were mixed with a trace of resentment, reluctance, and complicated emotions. Is there something wrong with this woman's head? Why is she showing such an expression? She looks like a resentful woman. I didn't do anything wrong to her. Dustless complained. Athena's expression gave him the illusion that he had mercilessly had sex with her and then abandoned her in the end. Athena, what exactly are you? Wu Chen's words stopped abruptly. Suddenly, he felt a chill on his neck. He turned his head and saw two ferocious eyes that were more ferocious than those of wild wolves. They were glaring at him furiously. It was Erika and Liliana. Are you not going to take responsibility for what you did to someone else? Erika asked with her beautiful eyes spitting fire. Her starry eyes were filled with hatred. She said, Abandon Athena. Even if you are the king, I won't let you off. Erika slashed her sword. Fortunately, Dustless had elementization. Otherwise, he might really end up with his head separated from his body. Me too. Then, Liliana also stabbed her sword at Dustless's throat without holding back. But fortunately, the elementization ability still worked, helping Dustless easily dodge this terrifying sword attack. Stop right there. Don't be fooled by him. Dustless's mouth twitched. He finally understood what Athena's words meant. What the F***CK? What the F***CK? She was using her chastity to trick Dustless. Erika and Liliana, who were full of righteousness, would certainly not let him off. Explain it to me clearly, Dustless said gloomily, wishing he could swallow Athena alive. Athena was even more embarrassed. She blushed and said, "How can that kind of thing be explained clearly? The process is not important, but your long-cherished wish of me giving birth to your child is real." "Fine, I'll make your act real when we get back to school and make your dream come true, Athena." Dustless cursed while dodging the attacks of the two women. Chapter 1445. Athena smiled faintly as she observed Dustless, who was besieged by Erica and Liliana. She had a cunning look of excitement on her face, just like a child's. Sure enough, no matter who he was, he had a weakness that no one knew about. "This guy is very protective." Athena's eyes flashed as she watched Dustless, who was being chased by the two women and only cared about explaining himself without fighting back. She finally felt a sense of belonging to Dustless. It could be seen that Dustless was an extremely protective person. Only a protective person would value the people around him and not allow anything to happen to them. Athena admired Dustless's protective personality. "If you don't leave now, you'll be late. Otherwise, you'll deduct your salary." Athena ignored the playful crowd and left Dustless with a beautiful back view. Glancing at Athena, who was skipping away, Dustless felt like swallowing her alive. "You're not the one who was framed. Not only did you not help me, but you're also that damned murderer." At the same time, in another direction. Not long after Marquis Oben left Japan, he made a comeback. Of course, this time, he brought with him a powerhouse who was strong enough to ride side by side with him. The other Godslayer, Salvatore Anthony. According to the previously agreed plan, the two of them would work together to deal with Dustless. Marquis Oben also promised that this time, he would definitely defeat Dustless and wash away the humiliation. That's right. As soon as they walked out of the airport, Marquis Oben said solemnly, "I still need to prepare some tools. You go deal with Dustless first." "Prepare things? What a coincidence," Salvatore Anthony said doubtfully. He was still wary of Marquis Oben. This old man was mysterious and sinister, and his personality was as cunning as a wolf. "Are you afraid of Dustless?" Marquis Oben took the opportunity to mock him. "Scared?" Upon hearing that, Salvatore Tony curled his lips and said domineeringly, "Maybe I'm not as strong as him, but the word fear has never been in my dictionary. Even if you didn't say it, I'd still want to meet him personally." "Dustless is a teacher of Chengjia Academy, right? I'll go first." Salvatore Tony carried the wrapped sword and left. He was full of fighting spirit towards Dustless, especially the mocking tone of Marquis Oben, which made him quite unhappy. Although he had only been a godslayer for a few years and might not be very strong, he was definitely not weaker than someone who had just become a godslayer. "Young people are really gullible." Marquis Warban couldn't help but laugh. Looking at Salvatore Tony's disappearing figure, his hidden cunning smile was completely exposed. "Idiot. Dustless's strength is unfathomable. If you go, you'll end up like me." Touching the footprint scar on his face, Marquis Oben, who was already terrifying, became even scarier. Besides, putting aside Dustless's strength, do you still remember that Dustless has the goddess of battle, Athena, by his side? Therefore, Marquis Oben felt that he had no chance of winning from the very beginning. Even if he and Salvatore Tony put aside their previous enmity and joined forces, he didn't think that he had a chance of winning against Dustless. Therefore, he deliberately found an excuse to trick Salvatore Tony into dealing with Dustless and Athena, hoping to buy him some time. Marquis Oben said that he had found a way to defeat Dustless, and that he didn't have the ability to fight back. "Hee hee. Salvatore Tony, don't die before I complete my plan." Marquis Oben laughed sinisterly, revealing his dazzling white teeth. This alliance was actually just Marquis Oben, who was helpless, using Salvatore Tony. Chapter 1446. Marquis Woben was hundreds of years old. Compared to him, a novice godslayer like Salvatore Tony was always simpler. In his world, there was only fighting, and he was not good at scheming. "Idiot. Dustless has such a strong faction. Even if we join forces, we will only be begging for trouble. It's fine if we fail once, but I don't want to fail twice in a row at the hands of one person." Marquis Woben's expression was cold, and his whole body exuded a resolute temperament. He then followed Salvatore Tony without turning his head, treating this guy as a rash vanguard. He just had to secretly carry out the plan behind his back. Chungjia Academy's healthcare room. Humph, Miss Athena, although I'm very good at this, I absolutely can't tolerate others slandering me for no reason. The healthcare room. Oh, perhaps it could no longer be called a healthcare room. The large room was filled with a transparent enchantment, and Dustless and Athena were trapped in it. Slandering me? Athena showed a blank expression and said innocently, I'm not that kind of person. Have you been beaten silly by Erica and Liliana? Humph. Don't play dumb with me. Wu Chen snorted rudely and said loudly, When did I ask you to give birth to a child? You falsely accused me and caused me to be hunted down by Erica and Liliana. Shouldn't you take responsibility? After saying that, Dustless had an unlucky expression on his face, and Athena's expression had nothing to do with him. So it's because of this. Athena showed an enlightened expression, and then nodded indifferently. Damn, can you not be so natural? Dustless complained in his heart. Athena had tricked him, but she did not show any signs of awakening. Instead, she looked frivolous and indifferent. So much so that Wu Chen really had the thought of doing him. Do you dare to deny that you have no thoughts about me? Athena asked calmly as she stretched lazily. Men were possessive of beautiful women, and 99% of men were like this. Besides, Athena was confident in her appearance, and her identity as a god could turn men into beasts. I did have an idea, but I didn't do anything. Dustless was extremely speechless. What kind of bullshit logic was this? Could it be that when others fantasized about you, it was the same as forcing you to have children? Wasn't this a little too shameless? The two of you are in a good mood. You even have the time to flirt now. Dustless and Athena were stunned. They looked at the source of the voice and saw a handsome young man standing outside the barrier. Salvatore Anthony? Dustless asked in confusion. He was quite surprised. He had no dealings with this fellow, and neither of them knew each other. However, Salvatore Tony carried a wrapped sword on his shoulder, so he thought he was up to no good. Dustless had long known that this fellow was belligerent, but he did not expect him to come knocking on his door just a few days after he became a godslayer. He was especially annoyed that someone had taken the initiative to barricade his house. Do you know me? When Salvatore Tony heard this, he immediately became smug. He said to himself with a smile of exultation, Could it be that my reputation has spread to a place like Japan? However, after a few seconds of narcissism, he was annoyed by Dustless and Athena. Who knows a little pawn like you? If you don't want to die, get away from me. Dustless and Athena jumped into the same trench from opposite sides. Both of them said unkindly to expel Salvatore Tony. Athena and Dustless had a personal grudge, and it was not up to an outsider to intervene. Especially a godslayer who had inexplicably invaded other people's territory. What was he trying to do? This was a blatant provocation. You too. Salvatore Tony's smiling face froze. It was the first time in his life that someone had asked him to get away. Are you not convinced? Sensing the fleeting murderous intent in Salvatore Tony's eyes, Athena said disdainfully, What's so special about a godslayer? In fact, it's just Dustless did not say anything. Although Athena's tone was arrogant, it was undeniable that as a Trinity god who had regained all her strength, she had the right to look down on others. These two are really domineering. They don't take me seriously at all. Salvatore Tony had an unlucky look on his face. He realized that he had come at the wrong time. He had become Dustless and Athena's punching bag. Why are you here? You don't know anyone here, and no one welcomes you. I have a personal matter to settle now. You can go back now. Glancing at Salvatore Tony, Dustless did not hesitate to expel him. He was framed by Athena for no reason, and this debt must be settled. Sorry, it's impossible for me to go back because I also have a personal matter to settle. Salvatore Tony smiled brightly, but the temperature around him dropped to freezing point. Sure enough, this guy is here to die. Dustless and Athena said at the same time, mocking Salvatore Tony for overestimating himself. This guy was obviously here to die. The corner of Salvatore Tony's mouth twitched violently. At first, he thought that it was pure nonsense for a godslayer and a disobedient god to be together. Now, it seemed that it was not the case. There was a reason for it. At the very least, her ability to look down on others was outstanding. I am here to challenge the two of you. Salvatore Toni's patience was exhausted. He looked at Athena with glowing eyes. Of course, I don't care if someone gives away their power for free. Chapter 1447. Challenge us. Hearing this, Dustless and Athena were both stunned. A few seconds later, the two laughed, ignoring Salvatore Toni's livid face. Challenge us both? Just by yourself? Dustless's face was full of contempt. It would be good enough if Toni could take on either him or Athena alone. It seems that this kid is so confident because he wants to take on both of us. It's too funny and stupid. What's so funny? What's wrong with me challenging both of you? Hearing the two's unscrupulous ridicule, the enraged Salvatore Toni roared at Dustless and Athena. These two adulterers look down on me too much. What's more, who told you that I'm alone? Let me tell you too clearly, I have a powerful ally. Salvatore Toni changed the topic and said proudly, there is another godslayer who has allied with me. Allied? Dustless's smile came to an abrupt end. He could not help but frown deeply. After thinking about it, he did not offend anyone except Marquis Oban. He immediately asked, could it be Marquis Oban who lost to me? Yes, it's him. Salvatore nodded slightly and replied loudly. Puff. Marquis Oban, who was secretly watching the situation, vomited blood. This idiot who only knows how to fight. Sure enough, it was wrong to cooperate with him. I was really blind. Marquis Oban's internal organs twitched fiercely. This idiot is too honest. Why are you so obedient? Dustless asked you to die, so why didn't you die? No matter what, let's capture the weakest few first. That way, it will be equivalent to my victory. This guy is too much. A godslayer actually values such boring things as feelings and bonds. You are really rotten. Marquis Oban grinned and sneered, revealing his white teeth. He was as terrifying as a vampire. Looking at Dustless, his eyes were full of endless contempt. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. After observing for a few more seconds and confirming that Dustless, Athena, and Salvatore Anthony would not get in his way, Marquis Warban left silently. He had secretly captured Erica, Wanli Guyoli, Liliana, and the others. The three of them were the weakest, so it would be easier to threaten Dustless after capturing them. Although his reputation would be ruined in the future, Marquis Warban had already lost his rationality due to the flames of vengeance. Thinking about the glaring footprint that Dustless had left on his face, Marquis Warban was furious. Bring it on. On the other side, Dustless crooked his finger, and the expression of looking at trash made Salvatore Toni's mouth twitch wildly. He did not even use his authority and directly rushed over with his fist. Ka-ka-ka. His body erupted with endless impact, forcibly tearing apart the barrier set up by Dustless. That's all. With a cold snort, seeing how fragile the barrier was, Salvatore Toni's confidence exploded. He gathered explosive force in his feet and charged over. You overestimate yourself. Shaking her head slightly, Athena turned her head away. She could not bear to see the scene of Salvatore Toni being beaten up by Dustless. The two of them were completely different existences. This barrier was set up by Dustless casually, so it was very fragile. The original intention was to prevent Dustless and Athena's conversation from being overheard. It did not think of defending against the enemy, so it was understandable that Salvatore Toni tore it apart forcefully. Repent, arrogant brat. Salvatore Toni jumped up, clenched his hand into a fist, and used the falling force to punch Dustless's face with all his might. Funny. Glancing at Salvatore Toni with pity, Dustless casually raised his palm and effortlessly caught the incoming fist. His arm that was as slender as a willow branch was unexpectedly strong. Salvatore Toni struggled for a long time but could not escape from the restraint. How is this guy so strong? On the surface, Salvatore Toni remained calm. However, he was frowning in his heart. As a close combat warrior, it was understandable that he had great strength. However, Dustless had nothing to do with this profession. Moreover, Dustless seemed to be very good at close combat. He had easily subdued Toni. His grappling skills were outstanding. This made Salvatore Tony involuntarily think of a person. Hierarch Luo Hao. Is he really Luo Hao's apprentice? Salvatore Tony speculated. When he heard Luo Hao say that Dustless was her apprentice a while ago, he just laughed it off. He thought it was a deliberate target to attract Marquis Warbon's firepower. Now, judging from his grappling skills, it might be true. However, just as Salvatore Tony was thinking hard, Dustless launched a counterattack. Bang! Gently lifting his right foot, Dustless kicked Salvatore Tony's groin. Ow! Ow! Immediately afterward, Salvatore Tony's hysterical scream spread through the sky. His old face turned green, and he rolled on the ground in pain. Athena, who couldn't hold back her laughter, laughed out loud. Her red face was like a ripe peach, making people want to take a bite. Scoundrel, I will kill you. Salvatore Tony was furious. The fire in his words was enough to burn a human to death. He glared at Dustless fiercely, and his eyes were as terrible as a dying beast. This bastard is too despicable. He doesn't know the rules at all. What if he becomes a cripple? Salvatore Tony grimaced in pain, covering the most important part of the man with both hands. If it weren't for the fact that they were in public, he would have taken off his pants to take a closer look. Chapter 1448. Dustless looked at Salvatore Tony, who was rolling on the ground. His clean expression was indifferent. This guy is just a clown used to attract firepower. It's just that he's too naive and likes to fight, so he doesn't realize it. Marquis Warbon. That old guy made his own choice. I wanted to let him go this time, but who would have thought that he would continue to court death? Since he likes to play with fire so much, I'll burn him to death this time. The dense killing intent caused one's heart to palpitate. Dustless's cold face was almost covered with a thin layer of ice. Bastard, I won't let you go either. How dare you? Salvatore Anthony glared at Dustless with fire in his eyes. This guy is too arrogant. His means are too vicious. He actually wants to end my bloodline. Oh, Athena, did you see that? He can still talk. It means that I wasn't ruthless enough just now. Dustless pointed at Salvatore Tony and said to Athena. Humph. Salvatore Tony snorted and did not give a reply. Boring. Athena rolled her eyes at Dustless. Then, she turned her head away as if she didn't see anything. However, the corner of her eyes swept around Salvatore Tony, and a faint smile hung on the corner of her mouth. This guy is obviously here to make fun of me. You will definitely pay for this. Salvatore Anthony gritted his teeth and stood up. His eyes were full of devastation as he stared at Silver. Light flashed across the corners of his eyes from time to time. He seemed to be thinking about which angle to launch a sneak attack on Dustless. Since you want to die so much, I'll fulfill your wish. Dustless's body flashed with a huge flash. Golden light flashed, and in the next second, his shining little foot mercilessly greeted Salvatore Tony's abdomen. Light speed kick. The powerful force that could destroy heaven and earth smashed on Salvatore Tony's body with endless impact. It doesn't feel right. Why does it feel like I'm kicking steel? Dustless looked at Salvatore Tony in surprise. After this attack, he only took a few steps back. Silver's right foot was also numb. At the same time, Athena also noticed Salvatore Tony's abnormality and stared at him with burning eyes. It should be his authority. Athena guessed, a strange light flashing in her eyes. Her tone was filled with admiration. She knew Dustless's strength. Salvatore Tony was not bad to be able to withstand this sleep. Humph, you will soon pay the price for underestimating me. Salvatore Tony was like a proud eagle. He had finally recovered some of his shattered self-esteem. Of course I know that this is his authority. Dustless rolled his eyes and glared at Athena. Did she really need to ask such a simple question? She made him look like a newbie. This should be the authority you usurped from the Norse hero Siegfried, the steel protection. It turns your body into steel. No matter if it's weight or hardness, it will be incomparable. It will greatly increase your weight and will not be easily blown away. With such a body, it will also be very effective in attacking the enemy and defending. Dustless explained calmly with an expression that said, "You can't hide anything from me." Gulp. Are you kidding me? What kind of pervert is this guy? How did he recognize my authority so quickly? Salvatore Tony's mouth twitched violently. He stared at Dustless in disbelief with his eyes wide open. This is simply cheating. Even if you are shameless, you should know when to stop. Dustless, this guy. Not only was Salvatore Tony stunned, but Athena also looked at Dustless in shock. Judging from Tony's shocked expression, Dustless was obviously telling the truth. It seems that the winner and loser have been decided. Athena felt that Dustless was difficult to deal with. At the same time, she looked at Salvatore Tony with pity. As long as Athena took out Velislana's golden sword to deal with him, this authority would be considered useless. Humph, a blind cat meeting a dead mouse. You are just lucky to be able to identify the source of my authority. Salvatore Tony retorted with a red face. There seemed to be no other explanation other than a blind guess. After all, it was impossible to say that Dustless could foresee the future. Also, Salvatore Tony changed the topic and sneered. So what if you can understand my authority? You can't break it anyway. I'd like to see how you can defeat me. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. There was a violent explosion in the air. A black shadow could be vaguely seen rushing towards Dustless. You are too full of yourself. Athena sighed softly. She had seen the miserable appearance of Salvatore Tony being beaten up. If he knew Dustless's authority, he might not be so arrogant. Athena's watery eyes moved to Dustless with interest. She originally thought that Dustless would take out the golden sword to defeat the enemy. Who would have thought that Dustless's sudden move would subvert her understanding of him? Hey. You want to be my opponent? I say you think too highly of yourself. Dustless did not dodge. His annoying face was still trying his best to humiliate Salvatore Tony. Go to hell. Salvatore Tony was furious. His powerful fist blasted towards Dustless's face. Bang bang bang. Dustless's body was like seawater, being beaten into pieces in an instant. What's going on? Salvatore Tony was stunned. It was the first time he had seen such an unexpected scene. Shouldn't a person be torn apart after being beaten down? So what? Anyway, I am a man of steel. He can't hurt me. Although he did not understand what tricks Dustless had used, he was relieved when he thought of his own ability. A man of steel could defend against most attacks. Chapter 1449. His protection of steel was quite special and could be said to be impenetrable. But this time, it was destined to fail. Do you think your authority is invincible? Salvatore Tony was about to turn his head and launch an attack when he was faced with endless ridicule and contempt. Salvatore Tony could not afford to underestimate his own strength. The difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Light speed kick. Dustless's eyes became colder and colder. His feet covered with flashes of light kicked out mercilessly. TSK. I was so nervous. It turns out that you are using the same old trick again. Salvatore Tony sneered disdainfully. Just now, he faced this move head-on but nothing happened. Dustless wanted to use this move to defeat him. It was simply wishful thinking. Ignorant kid, do you really think that I used my full strength just now? Witnessing Salvatore Tony's arrogance, Dustless smiled without saying a word. When encountering such an idiot, there was no need to explain more. Just let the fist speak the truth. Boom boom boom. The light speed kick mercilessly greeted Salvatore Tony's body. In the next second, he realized that his previous idea was completely wrong. It was even a little childish. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. The power of the light speed kick, this time, was different from before. Salvatore Tony was kicked hundreds of meters away. Ka ka ka. Salvatore Tony's body smashed into the wall, leaving a shocking crack. This time, his expression was not as indifferent as before. The pain on his face was clearly visible. Not so arrogant this time, right? Strolling towards Salvatore Tony, who was unable to move in the deep pit, Dustless's eyes were full of smiles. In the end, the cold smile on his face became even more obvious. At the same time, Athena also followed. You don't really want to kill him, do you? Athena approached Dustless and asked quietly. It all depends on my mood. Dustless shrugged and gave an ambiguous answer, fooling Athena casually. Boom, boom, boom. At the same time, a shockwave came from another direction. Dustless and Athena both stopped in their tracks. Ha ha ha. So that's how it is. No wonder that damned old man agreed to work with me. I thought he had changed, but it turns out he was using me as bait. Damn it, this was all part of Marquis Warban's plan. Looking at the black smoke rising into the sky and the servants of death scurrying around, Salvatore Tony suddenly realized that he had been fooled. Damn it! Smashing the wall next to him, Salvatore Tony wanted to swallow Marquis Warban alive. Although you are still an idiot, you are not incurable. I always thought that you would not understand the truth of the matter, and would always be used by Marquis Warban. Now, it seems that you are smarter than I thought. The sound of Dustless clapping could be heard. Looking at the teaching building in the distance, a cold killing intent flashed in the corner of his eyes. Of course, the target this time was not Salvatore Tony. The old man will kill you this time. Looking at the teaching building with black smoke, Dustless had vaguely guessed Marquis Warban's plan. Athena! Gently turning his head and glancing at Athena, Dustless turned and left. Leaving Salvatore Tony to her, Dustless rushed in the direction of Marquis Warban. Athena today was different from the original work. After Dustless returned the Gorgon stone to her, Athena's strength had always been at its peak. Dealing with a mere Salvatore Tony was no problem. These two guys. One is more arrogant than the other. Seeing Silver leave, Salvatore Tony's face turned green. This was naked contempt, and he did not take him, a god-slayer, seriously at all. Even if this subordinate, Athena, was a god, Salvatore Tony's self-esteem was hurt. He had always placed himself in the same position as Dustless. I will not be as sloppy as Dustless. A scythe appeared in her hand. Athena stared at Salvatore Tony and said, Please don't die. At least let me play for a while. That guy was the only one who occupied the console just now. Game console. Hearing this, Salvatore Tony almost suffocated to death. Both of them had treated him as a tool to please and play with. A soldier would rather die than be humiliated. Under the attack of the flame, Salvatore Tony even forgot about his injuries and stood up regardless of everything. On the other side of Chungjia College, the flames of war were also raging, and the situation was also one-sided. Boom, boom, boom. The violent explosion sounded again, and the powerful aftershock spread, and several figures were also sent flying. Damn it, is this the strength of the king? So strong. Liliana and Erica fought side by side. Next to them was Gu Yoli, who was 10,000 miles away. At this moment, the three of them were in a sorry state, and their fair faces were covered with dust. We are no match for him, Gu Yoli said with a bitter smile. He looked at Liliana and Erica helplessly. Rather than calling it 3, it was more appropriate to call it 2. Gu Yoli was not good at fighting. This guy intends to capture us alive to threaten Dustless. We must not let him succeed. Erica vowed solemnly, and there was a sense of awe in her words. Yes, this old guy plans to do so. Despicable. Liliana and Gu Yoli nodded at the same time, and they also understood Marquis Oban's purpose. He wanted to use the three of them to threaten Dustless. Chapter 1450. Both Liliana and Erica were nervous. As they watched Marquis Oban approach, the pressure on them increased, and they could not help but retreat. As knights, they were not afraid of death, but if Marquis Oban captured them alive and used them to threaten Dustless, that would be unacceptable. A knight's duty was to protect the safety of the king. It was fine if they could not protect the king, but if they were used to threaten the king, Erica and Liliana could not accept it. Erica? Liliana. The two ladies looked at each other at the same time and saw the determination in each other's eyes. They then nodded at the same time, as if they had made a firm decision. Miss Erica, Miss Liliana, are you saying that you want to? Wanli Gu Yoli clutched the corner of her clothes tightly. Although she was not good at fighting, she was intelligent enough to understand what the two ladies meant. Oh, how touching. Do you want to die together? That won't do. You are my important bargaining chips. Marquis Oban was also an old fox. He naturally knew what Erica and Liliana were thinking. They wanted to kill themselves when the situation became unfavorable. It's a pity to die at such a young age. I haven't lived long enough. No living creature, be it human or animal, wants to die. The desire for life was the essence of living creatures. No one wanted to die. Then, just as Marquis Oban was about to study philosophy, an extremely discordant sarcasm sounded, as if it had suddenly appeared in his heart without him noticing. Will you please die? The cold voice was like a block of ice. The flow of the air stopped, and a suffocating and dangerous atmosphere filled the air. Who is it? Come out! Marquis Warban roared. He looked around, but he couldn't find a single soul. Idiot! I'm right behind you. Hearing this, Marquis Oban was shocked. He immediately turned around and saw Dustless's playful little face. His eyes were filled with mockery. Go! Marquis Oban was shocked. Just as he was about to attack, he suddenly felt a piercing pain in his organs. He widened his eyes and saw that the golden greatsword had shattered his organs. His heart had already been destroyed by the sharpness of the sword. Isn't your reaction speed a little too slow? With your sloppy standards, you want to be a godslayer? The rules of this world are about survival of the fittest. You should be eliminated as soon as possible. Staying in this world is also a waste of resources. Dustless thrust the Kusanagi sword into Marquis Oban's chest, completely pulverizing all of his internal organs. Even his heart had been reduced to minced meat. You bastard! Marquis Warban could feel his life force slipping away at a rapid rate, and he was practically biting out every word. The corners of his mouth were twitching, and Dustless even suspected that his jaw was about to dislocate. You're about to die, yet you still hate me so much? Silver had a helpless expression on his face, but the heavenly cluster cloud sword that he had stabbed into Marquis Warban's body had sunk in by a few strands. Dustless hated being threatened by others, and Marquis Warban had touched his bottom line. Dustless had always been the type of person who used despicable schemes, and Marquis Warban had touched his sore spot. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Marquis Warban bellowed with a ferocious expression. His physique suddenly changed, becoming several times stronger in an instant. You can still use your authority in this state? Dustless frowned inwardly. His internal organs had already collapsed, and even his heart was a bloody mess. Yet Marquis Warban was so ferocious that he could still use his authority. His life force was truly astounding. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Marquis Warban roared hysterically. Anyone who was forced to the brink of death would have their fighting strength increase exponentially. This was true for ordinary humans and beasts, and as a godslayer, Marquis Warban was no exception. Boom! 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 The originally cloudless sky suddenly flashed with lightning and thunder, and the wind howled. There was even a sudden downpour, and the biting cold wind made it difficult for anyone to stand still. That old fellow really has a lot of authority. Dustless pursed his lips. Until now, he only had the authority of Wells Lana. Although Mercator had also been killed by Dustless, Dustless turned a deaf ear to his useless authority. Go to hell! Thick flashes of light descended from the sky, all of them locking onto Dustless. Boom! 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 Lightning kept exploding on Dustless's body, mercilessly destroying his body. Billions of Ford of lightning struck Dustless's body until it exploded. This should be the end. Looking at Dustless's body, which had exploded into several pieces, Marquis Warban's shattered heart felt a little better. End? The CIA is more suitable when you go home to sleep. The pieces of Dustless's body suddenly flashed with a large amount of light, and in a few seconds, Dustless came back to life, unharmed. Mother *****. Marquis Warban, who had always considered himself a gentleman, was speechless. He looked at the unharmed Dustless, dumbfounded. He wanted to cry but had no tears. None of his moves seemed to work on him. How was he supposed to play this game? Liliana, stop daydreaming. Hurry up and attack. Erica saw that Marquis Warban was silent and gloomy, and shouted urgently. Then, the two of them launched a sneak attack on Marquis Warban from behind. Marquis Warban screamed. His expression was extremely miserable as his arms were cut off by the two of them. Chapter 1451. Marquis Woban was fatally injured in an instant. How much combat power did he have left with his arms chopped off? An ordinary human would be crippled, but a god slayer was different. He would not be defeated so easily. Their hysterical roars resounded through the sky, and they were filled with endless sorrow. Marquis Woburn roared at the sky, his voice filled with sorrow and indignation. He stared at Liliana. Never in his wildest dreams would he have his arms chopped off by a traitor. You did well. Marquis Woburn could only admit defeat. He had to admit that he had lost everything. As a king, his arms had been chopped off by his former subordinate. Marquis Woburn would be hung on the pillar of shame, dead or alive. Kiki. Even if I die, I'll drag you down with me. Its oily green eyes stared fixedly at Liliana, as if it was a hungry beast that could hear the sound of her growling. You still won't give up even after things have turned out this way? His obsession is really deep. With a flash, Dustless turned into a beam of light and landed in front of Erica and Liliana. They had succeeded just now mainly because Dustless had attracted most of Marquis Woburn's attention and had launched a sneak attack. If the two of them had fought him alone, Marquis Woburn would have died. You should just die and purify the world. Dustless's voice was as cold as a knife, not bothering to hide his killing intent. Heh. Marquis Woburn laughed bitterly. He no longer wished to live in one piece. It doesn't matter, as long as I can drag that traitor down with me. Marquis Woburn's eyes glowed green. Go away, that's his power. Remembering their previous exchange, Silver hurriedly told Liliana and Erica to get out of the way and explained, Don't let his eyes see, or your body will turn into a salt barrier. Crack, crack, crack. Sure enough, in the next second Wu Chen, who was blocking in front of the two women, made a cracking sound from his body. King Dustless. Liliana and Erica exclaimed, greatly moved. If it weren't for Dustless, the two of them would have crystallized into salt. Don't worry, these clown tricks won't work on me. Dustless waved his hand and smashed his chest that had turned into a barrier. The 10-tailed beast's heaven-defying physique once again took effect and Dustless's skin was intact. Damn, this bastard is really the most troublesome. Marquis Woburn's face darkened as he cursed Salvatore Tony for being an idiot. Looking at Dustless, Marquis Woburn seemed to have thought of something. He asked in surprise, Speaking of which, where is that idiot Salvatore Tony? Don't tell me you've turned into a fool? How long has it been? Doubt was written all over Marquis Woburn's face. How many minutes had it taken to kill a godslayer? This joke wasn't funny at all. I left him to Athena, but that guy should be in more danger now. Dustless stroked his chin. He could already see Salvatore's miserable appearance. Trash. Marquis Woburn curled his lips fiercely. If Salvatore Tony could hold Dustless back, he wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state. Erica and Liliana, the traitors, would definitely be his prey. Okay, I've answered your questions. Do you have any other last words? Dustless asked seriously, intending to end this boring battle quickly. Marquis Woburn was weak, a man, and ugly. Dustless was not interested in him. I have some last words. Silently approaching Dustless, Marquis Woburn's eyes shot out a cold luster. Then, like a gust of wind and lightning, he rushed out until he pounced on Liliana, who was behind Dustless. Go to hell with me, Liliana. At this moment, Marquis Woburn's speed was beyond human comprehension. It was as exaggerated as jumping through space. Even his afterimage could not be seen. Of course, it was just that humans could not see it. Sorry, your last words are too much for me to do. Forgive me for not being able to fulfill them. A black sphere suddenly appeared behind his back, turning into a sharp spear and flinging it out. There was no doubt that the target was Marquis Woburn. His right leg was suddenly stabbed, and blood kept flowing out. Ha ha ha. Idiot. You want to kill me with this? Ridiculous. And what's the use of stabbing me? You know I'm... Marquis Woburn's voice came to an abrupt halt. He found that his left leg was slowly disintegrating. In the blink of an eye, his leg had disappeared. Idiot, that's the truth-seeking jade. No matter where I hit you, you'll definitely die. Glancing at Marquis Woburn with pity, Dustless left with Erica, Liliana, and Wanli Gu Yoli. They went straight to the place where Athena and Marquis Woburn were fighting. It seems to be over there too. Athena probably won. Sensing that the violent energy fluctuations in the distance had stopped, Dustless was certain that it was over. There were only a few people who dared to say that they could defeat Athena. After all, not everyone was like Dustless, who had countless powerful trump cards. After all, Athena was a powerful god of the Trinity. Forget it, let's go back. Athena knows the way home. Dustless suddenly changed his mind. Hearing this, Wanli Guyoli was stunned. He frowned and asked, "Is this appropriate? She's a companion. Don't worry about her. It's appropriate." Looking as far as he could, he found that Athena had disappeared. Dustless guessed that she had gone home first. As for Salvatore Toni, he did not see his corpse. Chapter 1452. Could he be in danger? Wanli Guyoli asked nervously. After all, the other party was one of the Godslayers, and there was no doubt about his strength. Danger? Your worry is unnecessary. Dustless curled his lips. Although Salvatore Toni was a Godslayer, there were different levels of gods. For a god like Athena, who was a trinity, it was not easy to kill her. I also don't think Athena will lose to the Godslayer. Even if she can't beat him, she should be able to deal with him. After all, not everyone is like him. Erica said with a serious expression as she pointed at Dustless with a slender finger. What does this have to do with me? Dustless couldn't help but feel speechless. He felt like he was being attacked even when he was lying down. However, he was quite happy. Although Athena was a god of disobedience, now it was obvious that she had integrated into the group. While they were talking, Dustless and the others had returned to Shizuka Kusunagi's house. Sure enough, as Dustless guessed, the lights in the house were on, and he could smell the aroma of cooking. Shizuka Kusunagi was probably preparing dinner. You guys are really dawdling. It's just a Godslayer. Why did you take so long? As soon as Dustless and the others entered the house, a dissatisfied grumble was heard. Looking at the source of the voice, the person who spoke was the angry Athena. The table was filled with a dazzling array of delicious food. Athena's fingers were wide open, but she didn't eat for a long time. Shizuka Kusunagi probably insisted on waiting for Dustless to eat together. By the way, where is the last person of Salvatore Toni? Dustless asked with a smile. Although he was sure that Athena was not killed, Dustless could not help but feel relieved when he saw Athena. He was quite worried about this proud woman. Him. Athena frowned slightly and replied bluntly, "That kid's strength is average, but he is very good at running away. He escaped." Dustless frowned. He felt that Athena's explanation was a little far-fetched. Forget it, let him be. He's just a harmless pawn that Marquis Warban used. It's fine as long as the culprit is dead. Dustless was too lazy to ask more. He just ate a mouthful of the Kusunagi dish. Not bad. Giving Shizuka Kusunagi a thumbs up, Dustless sighed inwardly that her culinary skills had improved greatly. Speaking of the future, it's going to be a holiday soon. Do we need to go to Italy? If I stay in Japan all the time, my body will rust. He moved his body slightly, and a crackling sound could be heard. I agree, Erica said with glowing eyes. Me too. Shizuka Kusunagi, Yoli Wanli, and Liliana looked at each other and nodded at the same time. Going to Italy seemed like a good idea. Anyway, the holidays were still long. I'm going too. Athena suddenly spoke, a strange look flashing across her face. Is it because of the stone pillar of Hera? It shouldn't be. Looking at Athena with interest, Dustless touched his chin and smiled without saying a word. You have a problem with that? Sensing Dustless's teasing gaze, Athena's face suddenly changed. How would I dare? You're the Trinity god. I'm scared of death. Dustless shrugged and said in a strange and fearful tone. Humph. She glared fiercely at Dustless. Of course, Athena could hear the teasing in Dustless's voice. But then again, that Mortis is really sad. Thinking of Mortis's past, which was Athena's current past, Dustless's cold heart had a rare touch of sympathy. It was indeed tragic to be devoured by her own husband. I'm going to rest first. After quickly finishing his meal, Dustless planned to go straight to bed after taking a bath. The battle with Marquis Warban made him sweat a lot. Dustless could even smell a faint odor coming from his body. The water is ready, and your pajamas are in the bathroom. Kusanagi Shizuka smiled very considerately. Every time, she would prepare the bathwater for Dustless in advance. Thank you, Shizuka. I can handle this kind of small matter. Dustless thanked her sincerely. Kusanagi Shizuka was very kind. Although she would occasionally throw a tantrum, it was also her most adorable and lively side. Phew! Lying comfortably in the water, Dustless closed his eyes. Just as he was about to take a nap, he suddenly heard an unusual movement. His closed eyes suddenly opened. Erica! Dustless almost screamed. His face was full of shock. Shut up! Erica hurriedly rushed over and covered Dustless's mouth. She stared at him and said, Don't talk. You don't want me to be caught, do you? It's none of my business. Dustless was speechless. What does it have to do with me if you're caught? Don't look at me with such an irresponsible gaze. As if sensing Dustless's complaint, Erica blew a hot breath in Dustless's ear and chuckled. King, don't you want something to happen between you and your knight that can lead to a breakthrough? Could it be that you want to? Hearing this, a strange glint flashed in Dustless's eyes. He was not a rookie, and he naturally knew what Erica meant by this. It also explained why Erica took the initiative to come to him. No wonder you're so nervous. You want to steal it. Dustless teased. Steal it? Do you know how to speak properly? You're mine. Erica's pretty face was tense as she said to Dustless in a very serious tone. Chapter 1453. Hearing Erica's explicit monologue, Dustless naturally had a reaction. He was not a monk. Who could resist a beautiful woman who delivered herself to him? Moreover, Erica was originally Wuchen's fiancée. The only thing that he didn't expect was that Erica would take the initiative to come to his door and use such insinuating words. I say. Dustless stared at Erica speechlessly. She had even changed her clothes. Her transparent pajamas were only a layer apart. With his excellent vision, Dustless could even see the faint blush that he should not have seen. I'm taking a shower now. Looking at Erica, Dustless did not know whether to laugh or cry. He continued, Also, what are you up to? I feel that you're acting strange today. Upon hearing that, Erica said indignantly, Of course I have to act fast. Otherwise, they will cut the queue and get ahead of me. Look at Liliana and the others, especially you and Athena, who are always flirting with each other. I have to defend my position. You're overthinking it. Dustless replied. At the same time, he grabbed Erica with his restless little hands. Her face immediately blushed like a poppy flower that was about to bloom. One could not help but be captivated by her. Right. Realizing that something was wrong, Erica suddenly slapped away Dustless's little hands. Her stern eyes were as sharp as knives. Erica, is there something wrong? Dustless asked in disappointment. He was very upset that someone had interrupted his good time. In particular, Erica's eyes, which seemed to be able to see through everything, made Dustless's heart uneasy. He felt that she could see through his biggest secret. Why are you so familiar with a woman's body? After a while, Erica asked a question that made Dustless want to vomit blood. Of course. I have a harem of 3,000 beauties. Dustless complained in his heart. This little girl thinks that I'm still a newbie. She doesn't think that I'm a virgin, does she? Idiot. I'm a healthcare teacher. It's normal for me to be familiar with a woman's body. Dustless said shamelessly, and don't worry about such details. I was born with an understanding of women's bodies. With that, Dustless pushed Erica down. Hey. Didn't you guys hear that weird sound coming from the bathroom? Wanli Guyoli asked blankly. Everything was fine just now, but after a few minutes, an inexplicable and abnormal sound came out. It didn't seem to be Dustless's. Liliana and Shizuka Kusanagi nodded. Don't mind such trivial matters. Athena took a sip of tea calmly. That being said, she glanced at the bathroom, only to discover that Erica's face was red after she disappeared. She had already guessed what had happened. Shall we go and take a look? Realizing that Erica had disappeared, Liliana also realized that something was wrong. I'll go take a look for you. You're still young, and some things are not suitable for you, Athena said with the tone of a big sister. The three girls looked at each other and then nodded in unison. Fuck Athena, that scheming bitch, is here to trick me again. Dustless's mouth twitched. Although he was fully focused on Erica, he still used his observation hockey to perceive the movements of several people in the living room. When he heard that Athena was coming to inquire about information, Dustless realized that something was wrong. She had a criminal record and framed Dustless last time. Erica, you hide from me first. You don't want to be caught by Athena. Looking at the intoxicated Erica, Dustless asked in a deep voice. Women have this kind of expression after being nourished. You really like to meddle in other people's business. Erica frowned deeply when she heard this. If the matter between her and Dustless was exposed, it was almost certain that Liliana and others would come to get a share of it. Dustless is only so big. What would be left after a few women share it? Erica expressed her unwillingness. But this place is only so big? Where can I hide? Erica smiled bitterly. Where can you hide in a bathroom of more than 10 square meters? And the other party is a god. Isn't it asking for humiliation if you want to play a game of hide and seek with her? That's right. Looking around, Dustless found that there was indeed nowhere to hide. I will suck you into the divine power space first and let you out when Athena leaves. Dustless smiled. Aware that Athena was gradually approaching, regardless of whether Erica agreed or not, he directly activated his dojutsu. Divine power. There was a ripple in the void, and the next second, Erica disappeared. Creak. At the same time, Athena just opened the door and came in. What a strange smell. Suddenly smelling the strange smell left in the air, for some reason, Athena couldn't help but blush. Are you alone? Looking at Dustless leisurely soaking in the bath, Athena's cheeks were full of suspicion. She just saw a figure in a trance. It was just me before. Now there's another one. Dustless looked lazy. Erica? Athena asked expectantly, but for some reason, she was somewhat disappointed. Dustless raised his arm and shook his fingers lightly. He teased. Erica? She's not here. You can look for her yourself if you don't believe me. I think Erica went upstairs to sleep. Besides, the person I'm talking about is you, Miss Athena. You ambushed me when I was taking a bath. I can sue you for molestation. I molested you. Even with her calmness, Athena's lips twitched violently. Looking down at Dustless's smiling face, she felt that he was asking for a beating. Was his brain damaged by the water? Chapter 1454. Athena was quite taken aback by Dustless's words. She stared at him with her gem-like eyes, not minding that he was naked at all. Perhaps to Athena, this was just his skin. If you don't know how to, then leave now, Dustless ordered, but he was flustered by Athena's stare. Humph, did you secretly take advantage of me? Athena asked in an extremely unfriendly tone. Afraid that Dustless would misunderstand, she quickly added, I'm asking on behalf of Jinghua and the other two. Secretly? Am I that kind of person? Dustless didn't know whether to laugh or cry, but he was laughing inwardly. If not me, then who is? You think I look like you? Glancing at Dustless's smooth and well-muscled body from the corner of her eye, she couldn't help but nod inwardly. This guy's skin was fair and beautiful. If he wore a girl's clothes, he would definitely be a great beauty. Is that so? But the truth is that I'm innocent. If you don't believe me, feel free to search. Dustless shrugged nonchalantly and pointed at all the places in the bathroom, indicating that Athena could look anywhere she wanted. How could such a small place hide from a god? Humph, you think I don't dare? Athena snorted and walked around a few times, her frown growing deeper and deeper. Little guy, you want to fight with me? You tricked me last time. This time, I'm going to pay you back double, plus interest. Staring at Athena's curvaceous figure, Dustless's heart throbbed. Everyone loved a fair and graceful woman. How is it, Miss Athena? Have you found any trace of Erica? A few minutes later, Dustless's laughter was full of mockery and laughter. If you love me, just say it. There's no need to use such a despicable trick to watch me bathe. Next time, just say it. Athena's mouth twitched as she glared at Dustless. She was sure that there was someone else in the bathroom, but she had no evidence. Keep pretending. I'm not leaving this place today. Don't let Erica out if you dare. Athena crossed her arms in front of her chest, as if Dustless was going to win. This guy. Dustless frowned hard after hearing that. Erica had been put into the space of godly might. He couldn't keep her there forever, could he? This guy's head must have been kicked by a donkey, Dustless slandered in his mind. Why is he so obsessed with me today? Is he trying to embarrass me on purpose? Dustless began to doubt Athena's motives. Looking at her stubborn expression, he felt a headache coming on. He had to use his trump card. I'm going to put on my clothes. Please leave. Don't even think about it. Athena pouted and refuted. Not only will I not leave, but I will also let you put on your clothes. Don't forget that I said that I would be your servant after I lost to you in our battle. Then, Athena walked to Dustless with her pajamas. Damn it! Dustless secretly hesitated. It was fine if Erica was locked in the space of godly might by herself for a while, but nobody could stand it in the long run. Who would be able to bear being locked up in a desolate world with no signs of human habitation? But Athena was so stubborn that it was obvious she wanted to catch them in the act. Dustless was also helpless. He couldn't just throw Athena out. Put on my clothes. Dustless stood up from the water and walked to Athena naked with a vague smile on his lips. This jerk. Athena secretly cursed. Blushing, she gritted her teeth and helped Dustless dry the water. Not bad. I've made enough of a bargain today. Dustless secretly rejoiced. Not only had he taken down Erica, but he had also asked Athena, a goddess, to put on his clothes for him. He couldn't have felt better. Although Athena was a high and mighty goddess, she was very meticulous in her work. She helped Dustless dry the water on his body, dried his hair, and finally helped Dustless put on his pajamas. It was rare for a goddess to show her tender side. Miss Athena, I'm going to bed. Hee. If you're willing, I'd love to sleep with you. When he went upstairs, Dustless smiled at Athena in delight. In your dreams. Athena glared at Dustless fiercely with a wretched expression. Confused, Dustless said shamelessly. You said yourself that you're my servant. Why can't you sleep with me? Also, look how compatible we are. Compatible? Bull*****. Do you think I'm a nymphomaniac like them? Don't dream about it, Mr. Godslayer. Athena said angrily. Although she said it so harshly, Athena couldn't deny that Dustless was indeed a good match for her, whether in strength or status. He was not inferior to her. In terms of strength, he was far more powerful than Athena. Insensible woman. Seeing that Athena was so insensible, Dustless didn't bother to waste his breath. A woman's heart was like a needle at the bottom of the sea, and there was no need to be entangled. Creak. Pushing open the door, his observation hockey spread out. After noticing that no one was there, Dustless launched his dojutsu. Kamui. It was not until then that the naked Erica fell out of the space of divine power. Where was that just now? Erica's eyes were empty and her face was blank. She found that her understanding of Dustless was only the tip of the iceberg. That strange world was barren, but it really existed. Hearing this, Dustless didn't hide it and said directly, That's my world, one of my dojutsu, and its usual use is to prevent certain things from being used. Erica stared at Dustless angrily. This guy really doesn't know the hunger of the hungry. Such a powerful and unique trick is actually a place to store things. It's a waste of God's gift. Chapter 1455. 2 days later, in Italy, on a warm beach. Dustless and the others all took a plane to Italy. Several women played beach volleyball by the seaside, and this time, they also called the Witch of Sardinia, Miss Lucurezia, to come out. Young people are really energetic. Lying lazily on the sand, Dustless gently looked at the frolicking Erica and others. He shook his head slightly. You don't look old. Lucurezia was speechless. If Dustless thinks that he's old, then what is she? Old witch? Lucurezia always felt that Dustless was mocking her in disguise. My heart is old. Dustless sighed. After experiencing several worlds, his appearance has never changed, but the things he has experienced are too many to count, which is beyond the imagination of ordinary people. He beat Uchiha Madara, abused Hashirama, kicked a Marine Admiral, humiliated Whitebeard, killed the so-called gods. In short, Dustless has experienced too much. Every time he thinks about it, his head is dizzy. In fact, his real age is more than hundreds of years. By the way, where did that little girl Liliana go? Glancing around, Dustless found that Liliana has long disappeared, and even Athena went somewhere. Really, Liliana still likes to meddle in other people's business. Salvatore Toni's actions have nothing to do with us. Why did she get involved? Thinking of the Hera's stone pillar used for worship here, Dustless couldn't help but shake his head. He already vaguely understood where Liliana went. The heart of a saint is playing tricks. In a dark secret room where you can't even see your own fingers. The emerald stone pillar was filled with the vicissitudes of life, exuding a mysterious light, and the ancient dragon carvings on the stone pillar can be seen. It's estimated that it's been there for many years. Ta-ta-ta! Light footsteps suddenly came, and a young man with a savage face and a big sword on his shoulder appeared in the dark space. His eyes often jumped with a cold and sharp light, and his appearance was very threatening. However, the only thing that made people afraid was the scar on this mysterious expert's face. It was especially terrifying in the dark night. Looking closely, this person was none other than Salvatore Anthony. Salvatore Care Tony? Liliana caught sight of the young man's figure and recalled the conflict between him and Dustless. Her heart could not help but sink as she held the western sword tightly with both of her hands. He looked as if he was facing a great enemy. Humph, that fellow's companion? Wherever he goes, he's like a ghost. Salvatore Tony snorted. Dustless had caused him a serious psychological barrier that he would never forget. The gap between them was so big that even Salvatore Tony, who had always been optimistic, was about to suffer from depression. Also, the scar that Athena left on my face, I will pay her back double in the future. Salvatore vowed with an expression full of endless confidence. But why did you attack Hera's stone pillar? Liliana was displeased and said sternly, the consequences of splitting Hera's stone pillar are unimaginable. That is a dragon condensed from the evolution of this land. Once it is damaged, this land may not be able to recover for several years. Idiot. Have you forgotten? I'm a god slayer, a king. Salvatore Tony smiled indifferently. If it can't be recovered, then so be it. What does it have to do with me? Humans are selfish, and the god slayer is no exception. Dustless and Athena had destroyed him one after another, leaving an indelible impression on Salvatore Tony. Therefore it was good to release the dragon. It would be best if it could attract a few dragon slayers. I see. Are you planning to use the dragon that was spurted out by the essence of the earth as bait? Liliana was stunned. She suddenly understood Salvatore Tony's motive. This guy was devastated and crushed by Dustless and Athena, leaving a serious psychological trauma. Therefore, he wanted to use the dragon to attract some disobedient gods and kill them to obtain authority. Only after obtaining new authority could he continue to fight with Dustless and Athena. Those two monsters were too strong. Even if you obtain new authority, you can't defeat the king. Liliana's face was cold. In her heart, Dustless was the strongest. Even Athena, a god, was subdued by him. Marquis Warban was also killed by Dustless, and Salvatore Tony was able to escape by luck. You are right. At my current level, I am indeed no match for Athena and Dustless. I even suspect that the two of them can kill me instantly. Salvatore Tony was disappointed and frustrated. It was fine if it was Athena. After all, she was the trinity of gods. But they were all godslayers. Why did Dustless have to be considered a cheat? It was too unfair. Therefore Salvatore, who was unwilling to give up, could only find another way. He chose to hunt the gods to obtain other authorities. However, the disobedient gods could not appear at will. The dragon formed by the essence of the earth was the best bait to attract the disobedient gods. Ignorant fool! Liliana's words were full of sarcasm. She suddenly sneered. Do you think that Lord Dustless has been using authority so far? Then you will never be able to surpass him. I can tell you clearly that the king is using his own strength, not the authority of the gods. He disdains it. You, a knight, dare to look down on me? Salvatore Tony's old face turned black. It was fine that Dustless and Athena looked down on him, but he could not bear Liliana's sarcasm. Chapter 1456. Liliana ignored Salvatore Toni's rage. Her expression was as usual, and her bright eyes glowed with scorching colors. She did not feel that she had spoken arrogantly or that there was something wrong with her. After all, most of the God Slayers fought with the authority of God. Just like Kusanagi Protector in the original work, would he still be powerful without the authority of Wells Lana? Obviously it was impossible. Dustless had been using his own power from the beginning to the end. Are you tired of living? Salvatore glanced at Liliana coldly, and the murderous intent on his face almost materialized. Dustless humiliated him. There was nothing he could do about it. He was not as strong as Dustless. Unfortunately, you are just a little knight. You should be honored that I am talking to you. Now, you are humiliating me even more. How dare you? Humph, I will deal with you after I finish my business. Salvatore Toni glanced at Liliana fiercely, and finally chose to kill Hera's stone pillar first. I heard that you are very strong, but there is nothing in this world that I can't split open. Salvatore Toni stared at Hera's stone pillar that was filled with emerald light. His eyes were filled with cold light, and the heavy sword in his hand was unsheathed with all his strength. Whoosh! The sword blade slashed straight at Hera's stone pillar, and the power was unstoppable. Damn it! Seeing this, Liliana was furious. She did not expect this guy to be so willful. He slashed without hesitation. He was indeed the most brainless king. Poochie! Hera's stone pillar suddenly split into two, and a large amount of light suddenly erupted into the sky. A large mass of green light appeared, and the outline of a dragon faintly appeared. Hee. It's best to attract a few more disobedient gods. Salvatore Toni smiled sinisterly, and his tone revealed endless expectations. For creatures like dragons, some disobedient gods had a unique hobby of killing. Next, it's time to deal with you. Salvatore Toni shifted his gaze and stared at Liliana with emotionless eyes. He said in a deep voice, I'm not a despicable guy like Marquis Oban. I won't capture you and threaten others. So draw your sword. This idiot. Could it be that he still wants to kidnap Liliana? Damn it, do you think I'm air? But this guy's reaction is really slow. I've been here for half a day, but he didn't even notice my presence. Dustless, who was observing in the dark, shook his head. He was speechless at this 8th grader. Ayo. At the same time, a loud and clear dragon's roar resounded through the endless night. Looking up, they saw a large emerald dragon spreading its wings and flying high in the sky. Its extraordinary and mighty appearance made people feel deep veneration. The dragon's roar coming from its throat made people want to worship it uncontrollably. He's just playing to the gallery. Dustless found this so-called dragon costume strange no matter how he looked at it. He felt an indescribable discomfort. He always felt that this guy was like a flying lizard, without any of the arrogance that a dragon should have. But this Salvatore Toni isn't too stupid. He knows that he's no match for me. He wants to obtain more authority and even wants to use this dragon as a bait. His intelligence is barely passable. Dustless nodded slightly. As a transmigrator, he knew that there were many dragon slayers in this world. Moreover, there seemed to be such a person in Italy right now. Now, I'll deal with you first. Salvatore Toni's eyes were like torches. He touched the hideous scar on his face. Even though it had already formed a scar and would recover after resting for a while, he still felt a stabbing pain in his heart. It was fine if he was defeated by Dustless. It was fine if he was defeated by his maidservant. If he was defeated by this knight in front of him, Salvatore Toni felt that he should just die. There was no need to live anymore. Chapter 1457. Roar, 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 roar. The ancient dragon roar that belonged to this era shook the heavens and the earth. Even hundreds of miles away, the arrogant and loud voice could be heard. How can a lizard be so arrogant? Dustless pouted, considering if he should release the Great Red to attack them. After all, the Great Red was over 100 meters tall, And this dragon formed by the Earth's spiritual energy was just a pocket-sized toy. However, Salvatore Tony is quite smart. He actually wants to use this dragon to attract the disobedient god's attention. That's a good idea. Dustless sighed with emotion. At the beginning of the mythological system, it was mainly a matriarchal society. However, as time changed, the gods led by Zeus, the god of the sky, finally overthrew the matriarchal society at that time. Creatures like dragons were very sacred in the matriarchal society at that time, such as Athena. On the contrary, the male gods led by Zeus were not interested in dragons. Originally, I'm not interested in a little girl like you. However, since you dare to provoke me, the king, then don't blame me for being ruthless. Salvatore Tony approached Liliana with his sword, giving her a huge sense of oppression. After all, this kid was a real god slayer. His strength was far from what a little girl like Liliana could compare with. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Salvatore Tony stomped his feet on the ground and pounced forward like a storm. He swung his great sword horizontally. Liliana was shocked and cursed in her heart. Not only was this guy's swordsmanship extremely strong, but his speed was also unbelievably fast. Clang clang clang. Although Liliana barely blocked Salvatore Tony's heavy sword, she was also forced to retreat a distance of 5 to 6 meters before she could stabilize her body. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Salvatore Tony refused to stop and pounced forward again with his great sword. Is this the power of a king? Sure enough, I'm still far from it. Liliana smiled bitterly. She looked at Salvatore Tony, who was rushing over, and felt despair. Regardless of whether she would kill him or not, she did not plan to live anymore. As a knight, she was captured by the enemy. Although Salvatore Tony would not use Liliana to threaten Dustless, she still chose to die. Have you made up your mind? Young girl. Salvatore Anthony jumped up, and the raised sword fell in an instant. Clang, clang, clang. The huge sword slashed down, and the huge vibration made Salvatore Tony's arm numb. He opened his eyes wide and saw a thin figure grabbing his sword. What kind of freak is this guy? How could he grab my sword with one hand? Salvatore Tony's old face turned green. It was fine if others were heaven-defying and abnormal, because there was still a degree to speak of. But this guy in front of him was a living prehistoric monster. The newcomer's messy black hair fluttered in the wind. He was not tall, but not too short either. He was about 1.75 meters tall. Even the dark night sky could not cover his deep and bright black eyes. They were very dazzling. Dustless. It's you again. Salvatore Tony put away his great sword, knowing that the show he had carefully prepared for today had come to an end. From just now, Salvatore Tony came to a helpless and cruel reality. He seemed to be unable to catch up with Dustless in this life. You have guts to hit my knight. Dustless's face did not change, but his tone was obviously low. Marquis Oban has disappeared. I don't need to say more. You know what this means. Hearing this, Salvatore Tony's heart sank. He naturally understood what Dustless meant. It was obvious that Marquis Warban had been killed. The God Slayer could be killed? To be fair, if he had not seen Dustless, Salvatore Tony would not have believed it at all. But after seeing how powerful Dustless was with his own eyes, Salvatore Tony understood one thing. The so-called God Slayer was, in fact, just a slightly bigger, stronger and fatter ant in front of a certain person. For example, Dustless in front of him. Salvatore Tony often felt that he could not catch up with Dustless even if he rode on a rocket. I am indeed not as good as you. Not to mention other aspects, even my best swordsmanship is not as good as yours. Salvatore Tony sighed. He was so disappointed that he sat on the ground. He was not as good as Dustless in what he was best at. It was needless to say how depressed he was. At the same time, a beast's roar came again. It was obviously different from the soul-stirring dragon's roar just now. This roar was full of endless nobility, like a god descending from the sky. This is the god of disobedience. Liliana and Salvatore Tony's eyes lit up. Dustless also looked at the sky. Under the black night sky, a man riding a winged Pegasus descended from the sky. This person had long golden hair that was as dazzling as gold. He had a face that was more beautiful than a woman's and exuded a noble temperament. This dragon formed by the eruption of the underground spiritual energy has indeed attracted that guy, Dustless said softly. Obviously. He already knew the identity of the person who had come. Which god of disobedience is it? Salvatore, Tony and Liliana asked at the same time. His name is Perseus. He is a hero and is quite strong. A black shadow suddenly descended from the sky and answered for Dustless. But this guy's behavior is really bad. He actually killed a dragon shamelessly. This crisp and pleasant voice was obviously a female voice, and Dustless was quite familiar with it. Without looking, he was 100% sure that it was Athena. You're tuning in to the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.